to find out how badly they were injured. We just know that there are several of them, multiple victims we're told, and that this shooting rampage that began going on an hour and a half ago now is still going on. As we understand it, they still have not apprehended who they're looking for. We also know that the University of Memphis campus is on lockdown, and that that is in response to a shooting that we believe happened at Patterson and Southern, which of course is right near where the U of M campus is, and then proceeded to this location. If you know, again, this is all subject to getting it fully confirmed by police because they're having trouble just keeping up right now, unfortunately. But Poplar and Evergreen is where a number of these squad cars are now, and they're looking for the suspect we've been showing you. We don't know anything more really about the suspect other than this picture, that he's 19 and he's started this shooting rampage about 90 minutes ago, and police have been trying to catch up to him ever since. The other location that we have confirmed is that AutoZone, as I mentioned, in Raleigh. There is video online, it may have been taken down at this point, of the shooting occurring, and that would, okay, is that who we're going to be speaking to? Okay, let's go to Jay at AutoZone. Jay, are you at the AutoZone in Raleigh that we've been talking about?
Yes, Richard. Yes, Richard. I'm here at the AutoZone here in North Memphis on the 4,000 block of Jackson. You can see behind me, we believe that this AutoZone is connected to the shooting spree. Not sure on any fatalities just yet or the conditions of anyone that was here, but we do believe this was connected to and is a part of the shooting spree. As you mentioned, it is a 19-year-old male they're looking for, currently in a gray Toyota SUV, possibly driving last seen on east on Popular Avenue. In North Memphis, I'm Jay Shakur.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. And we also have the most recent location that we're aware of, and that is Poplar and Evergreen, where police have actually shut down Poplar Avenue, trying to be on the safe side here as they try to look for that 19-year-old suspect who's responsible for all of this. Rebecca Butcher is, Rebecca, why don't you tell us where you're live? You're at another one of those shooting locations, I understand. Is that right?
Yeah, well, this is a very hectic scene. I was actually in the area after we got reports from Memphis police about a bolo for an armed and dangerous man. Now, this is what we know so far. Memphis police have just released this photo of who they are looking for. Now, they are looking for a car that he is in, but let me show you what has happened here and what we learned from eyewitnesses here at the scene. Now, I was the first here at the scene here. This is near Arbondale, this area, as well as Poplar. Police say a suspect is now in a gray SUV, possibly driving east on Poplar. Got here, was moved back, of course, as they continue to move back and secure this area. I can tell you, as soon as I got on this scene, it appeared that police were, authorities and response units were frantically working on someone in a medical. To save someone's life. Now, this is what we've heard from a witness. He said he saw a 4-car crash in the area here further down Poplar. There is a gas station, looks like it might be a BP. He said he came in the area, he saw a man described as an African-American male, wasn't sure what color clothing that he was wearing. He said he was going up to vehicles, quote, acting like he was hurt, and that the first or a prior woman that he approached actually said, no, you're not hurt. You have a gun. He went up to another person. That woman came out of her vehicle upset after this 4-vehicle crash, and he shot her. Now, according to this witness that we spoke to on the scene. It appears that he lives in the area. He says that she had on scrubs. He believes that she is in the medical field, possibly a nurse. So, of course, we're working to confirm more details with Memphis Police. I have reached out to Lieutenant Karen Rudolph, who is a spokesperson with the Memphis Police Department. She was working as well to get me more information. So we will, of course, be standing by to see if there is a press conference, any up-to-date details we can provide at this time. Of course, we have neighbors in the area who want to know what's going on. One person in particular said that they heard helicopters up near this area right about 2 o'clock. A second person who works nearby told me the same thing. Of course, keep it here for the latest up-to-minute developments. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Unfortunately, she's not able to hear my questions, but if she was able to, I'd want to ask her, at that scene there, do they also think they have boxed in the suspect, or is that suspect now moved on somewhere else? That's really the main pressing issue right now that we just don't have an answer to, folks, and we're trying to get it for you. But you saw the massive presence there, and for the first time, an account from an eyewitness of what they saw there at the scene, describing a 4-car crash right near that scene, a poplar and evergreen, and a man acting like he was hurt, presumably the suspect, when people reached out to try and help him, actually shooting at them for trying to help. And one of the women victims, the eyewitness describes to us, was in scrubs at the time when she was shot. So this is a hard situation to nail down because, frankly, police, I think, are having trouble nailing down exactly how many locations might be affected, how many victims we're looking at here. But all they are saying is this man here is driving around all parts of Memphis and randomly shooting at people, and has done so to such an extent that the University of Memphis campus is on lockdown right now after a reported shooting at Patterson and Southern. We understand there was another shooting victim at the AutoZone on Jackson. We just heard from R.J. Shakur, who was live at that scene. We heard from Rebecca, who was live at another scene at Poplar and Evergreen. That is one of the more recent situations that the active shooter has struck. And we don't know where that shooter is now. Unfortunately, we just know that there is an active shooter who is driving the streets of Memphis and shooting at people. So this is that scene I mentioned at Poplar and Evergreen. The situation starting at a BP that is near there, or a gas station, and a 4-car crash, as our reporter Rebecca Butcher mentioned, and a gentleman acting like he was hurt, but was not. We're trying to lock down other information about what might, other scenes that might be affected at this point. All we know is that the guy they're looking for is driving around in a gray Toyota SUV, and may not be a Toyota now, we're being told from police, may not be a Toyota, just a gray SUV at this point, and that every time he stops long enough to shoot somebody, that's what he does. And we're doing our best to track down where their search for the suspect is. You heard Rebecca mention that there are choppers in the sky searching for him from the air, and you can better believe that there have dozens of officers responding to this, trying to narrow down and catch the guy who's responsible so there aren't any more victims. The lockdown at the U of M campus is another side story to all of this because of a shooting that apparently happened near Patterson and Southern. Don't know if there were any victims there, just know that that is another location, and that police are urging you, if you should happen to see something going on, that you please call 911 right away. They're going to want to hear from you. Now, 5 minutes ago from police, this is what we have understand from them. They are telling us that the suspect is still at large. So now we have an answer to that question. And they are saying, if you live in Memphis, if you do not have to be out, stay indoors until this is resolved. We have an active shooter who's driving around randomly shooting at people and putting it on Facebook. And they are urging anyone to just be as cautious as you can right now until they can apprehend this guy and at least get him handcuffed and locked up so that they can try to piece together exactly how many scenes we're dealing with here and how many victims that we might be dealing with. We're pretty sure of at least three victims, and most likely more. And one of them happening right here at the scene at Poplar and Evergreen, which is now shut down as police piece together that particular crime scene. We have another crime scene where we understand officers located at Patterson and Southern, which is leading to the U of M campus being locked down. We have another scene at the AutoZone on Jackson, that's in Raleigh. So you get a sense here of just all of the different locations around the city of Memphis that have been affected by this already, and there are likely others. Although I can say, thankfully, that in the last several minutes, although police do say the suspect is still at large, we're not aware of any shooting after this one here at Poplar and Evergreen. We understand that is the last one at this point. We hope that's the last one. Once again, this has been going on for hours now. Police got the first call of a shooting, and then another call, and another call, and they're starting to piece together, hey, this suspect is driving around in the same vehicle. At that time, it was a blue sedan, an Infiniti. It had red dealer tags, we're told. We were told that the rear window had been busted out. And just as we were trying to get on top of that information, then comes another update saying, no, he's still out there, and now he's switched cars. Now he's in a gray SUV. And that was right on the time that he was spotted on Poplar Avenue. And at some point made it as far as the U of M campus, where the wise officers and personnel there made the decision to put the campus on lockdown. We understand AutoZone Park now is on lockdown to keep fans safe there, because there is a Redbirds game going on, and obviously these public events, when you know that there's an active shooter, police urging people to be inside, you don't want to have a lot of potential victims in a ballpark like AutoZone Park downtown. So that's not to say that there's anything that's happened there, but it's a precautionary situation here where the folks at AutoZone Park and the Redbirds are saying, we better put this game on pause until we can determine that the guy we're looking for is apprehended. Let's show his picture again if we can, because that really is the focus of this investigation right now, and all the efforts of Memphis police is to finally apprehend this 19-year-old. Again, we don't have a confirmed name that I can give you. All I can tell you is for some reason he enjoys putting his shootings on Facebook and has been doing so, and has struck in many locations and has struck many victims. We only have very limited information, honestly, about the victims. We did see in the video from AutoZone Park, it was a man who was shot there. We do have eyewitness testimony about the situation at Poplar and Evergreen, just outside the gas station there. A gentleman pretending to be hurt, I use the word gentleman loosely, by the way, acting like he was hurt and shooting a female victim there who we were told from the eyewitness was in scrubs when she responded to his basically bogus pleas for help, saying he was hurt when that was not the case. And we also know that from Memphis police telling us 5 minutes ago, a little more than that now, that they don't know where he is yet. He has still not been apprehended. Meantime, U of M not taking any chances, has the campus on lockdown tonight, affecting any night classes that might be going on there. AutoZone Park, with the Redbirds game going on, now has put that game on pause as a precautionary move for the ballpark there downtown. And there may be other responses too that we just don't know about. I imagine as word spreads about this very volatile situation and the need to catch a suspect who seems to have no remorse or contrition about shooting anyone that might just get in his way, that he's going to take that action, and they don't want to take any chances that people will be out there and exposed to that. But it's of course very hard to issue a citywide alert like that and basically ask everyone to be inside, because you don't know where he might strike next. Last location we understand that he's been seen is Poplar and Evergreen. Before that, Patterson and Southern at the U of M campus, which is why that is on lockdown. And in trying to ascertain just how many people and locations we're talking about here, I'm trying to write down as many as I can as I hear about them, but we know there are more than what I've been telling you about so far. I'm just trying to make sure we're measured about this and only share the information that we know is confirmed from police or from our own reporting staff or from eyewitnesses that have talked to our reporters out in the field. Rebecca Butcher is at that scene right now in well, I shouldn't say East Memphis, that's more Midtown, Poplar and Evergreen, where a woman was shot. Lots of police presence there. We have another reporter who's on the scene there in Raleigh at the AutoZone on Jackson, where we know a man was shot there, but we don't know their conditions. We just know that they were randomly shot at tonight. A very disturbing series of crime scenes that have developed here in Memphis tonight. Of course, all of this on the heels of the equally disturbing Liza Fletcher story that we've been telling you about for the past several days. And now this seemingly random crimes, I should say, that are taking place at multiple locations, affecting multiple people who are doing nothing more than just going about their business, and having an unknown person walk up to them and shoot them, fire at them. You're looking at the suspect there on the left-hand part of your screen. The right-hand part of your screen is Midtown Memphis, where we understand is the most recent shooting victim and where the most recent shooting has taken place. And then in terms of ramifications for the city at large, in addition to police telling people to be inside, we do know that as precautions, the U of M campus has been locked down, and that AutoZone Park is also on lockdown to keep fans safe while they put that game, Redbirds game, on pause. If you're just joining us, there's a man on the run who is shooting people randomly all over the city of Memphis. And so far, that man driving around in a gray SUV is still at large. People have not been able to find him. We are hearing from a reporter, Brad Broders. He says that a witness has been telling him that police are going back and forth in front of the Pyros. That's a restaurant on Union Avenue, which is not far from Cooper Young in Midtown, which is another location where there was a fatal shooting today, but we cannot say that it was necessarily related to this shooting suspect. But now that may be coming together as we get these bits and pieces of information coming into us from our reporters, combined with what police are sharing with us, combined with what our photographers are telling us. And of course, we are seeing other posts on social media from just citizens who have seen something, but that's more tenuous, that's not confirmed, so we're not necessarily going to show that to you or share that information with you. We're trying to be as judicious as we can about this, but it is starting to see some trends here in terms of some of the spots where this shooting suspect has struck. A 19-year-old that Memphis police have not identified by name, but say started this shooting rampage and has continued to do this. We are not, thankfully, aware of any other victims since this one here at Poplar and Evergreen, where there's a heavy police presence right now. But to just give you an idea of basically what has happened, in some cases, the suspect just walked in the case of the AutoZone, just walked into the store and fired at a gentleman. Then in another situation, the one that you're looking at here, pretended that he was hurt, but was actually not, and used the compassion of others as an excuse to shoot them. The female victim who was shot here, and there may be one other, Rebecca wasn't sure based on the eyewitness account, but at least one woman shot there who was wearing scrubs at the time, meaning she's obviously in the medical field, although we don't know exactly where or in what capacity. This started with that suspect being in a light blue Infiniti, and then as the evening wore on and more victims starting to pile up and more shooting scenes starting to pile up, the suspect switching vehicles, getting into another car, this time a gray Toyota SUV, and that's the last known vehicle we're aware of that he was driving at the time and is presumably still in at this point. The shooting locations we have confirmed and can tell you for sure. There was a victim that was affected by this. Is the AutoZone on Jackson in Raleigh, and this location here, Poplar and Evergreen, we believe there to have been a shooting at Patterson and Southern, which wouldn't be a whole long distance away from this one that you're looking at here, leading the U of M to put the campus on lockdown. And then most recently, after police urged anyone who might be out in Memphis right now to just get inside until they catch this guy, out of abundance of caution, AutoZone Park also deciding to go on lockdown to keep the fans safe there who were watching a Redbirds game. So that game is on pause downtown. So it really, from downtown AutoZone Park up to Raleigh, where the AutoZone is, Midtown, Poplar and Evergreen, over to the U of M campus, there's kind of your parameters that we're aware of at this point, where the random shots have been fired and random victims affected by those bullets. And we believe there to be others too. We're investigating whether a shooting that we have confirmed that took place in Cooper Young at 946, I'm looking for the exact address here, 946 East Parkway South. Don't know whether that we know there was a shooting, just don't know at this point whether it's related to the one involving the suspect on the left-hand side of your screen. But as we continue to bring you live coverage here on ABC 24, you you have been pretty much up to date here on what is going on, what police are looking for, and we can tell you that since this shooting at Poplar and Evergreen, there has not been another that we're aware of, and we're actively staying with police and who are trying to track down this guy as fast as they can and give us and give this city an all clear that the person responsible has been, in fact, caught. They will tell us multiple victims, multiple locations, but that's as specific as they're getting in terms of who the victims are, other than what we have learned from our own reporting. The eyewitness that we heard Rebecca talk about when she was at the scene here at Poplar and Evergreen, describing a situation where the eyewitness saw a 4-car crash near a gas station at this location, a man acting like he was hurt, and then proceeding to shoot one of the women who reached out to try and help him, instead was met with gunfire. It's a really hard to describe the significance of this. I've certainly never reported anything like this in my years of Memphis, going back to 1994. And here we are in a week that had a lot of people in this city shocked over what happened to Liza Fletcher, the teacher, the St. Mary's kindergarten teacher, who was out for a run near the U of M campus. And now we have this incident that's unexplainable, where the victims are random victims. You know, people talk about the Memphis crime problem, and often the people at the Chamber of Commerce or other civic boosters will say, yes, we do have this problem, but generally speaking, we don't have random victims. Rarely are random victims affected. And that obviously has not been the case this past week. If you look at the actions of the suspect tonight, the still unnamed suspect, who we know is responsible for multiple shootings, multiple victims, and of course, as far as we know at this point, Liza Fletcher, who also, according to the DA, Steve Mulroy, was not an intended target, just a random victim. So, look, I don't know, we're trying to get the most updated information we can from police, and we want to stay on the air to at least be able to tell you, in hopes that they're going to catch the suspect soon, and at least tell you that as we try to piece together all the different locations, the details of that, the victims, that at least we can give you word that you know you don't have to worry anymore. You know that they've caught who they're looking for, and that you can at least take a sigh, breathe a sigh of relief that you don't have to worry about this happening to you. But right now we can't give that information to you, because right now the latest information from Memphis police is that he is still at large, that he is driving around in a gray SUV, and that they have not apprehended him. They don't know where he is at this point. So look, you have to believe, with as much access as they have from the real-time crime center, all the data they're able to track now from microphones that they've placed in many neighborhoods around the city so they can actually hear gunshots when they ring out as they happen, which is supposed to give them an edge on responding. Between that and surveillance cameras, which we all know are just about everywhere, with people, almost everyone having a camera with them at all times with their cell phones, that they are going to be able to piece together pretty quickly where this guy is and find him. It's just a matter of time, and it's just a matter of what actions he's taking. Is he decided he's done now, that he's victimized enough people and he's trying to hide, or does he have plans to shoot even more people? We just obviously don't know. Only he knows the answer to that question at this point. But we just certainly hope and pray that Memphis police are going to be successful in their efforts to track him down as quickly as possible so people can go to bed tonight and not have to worry about him still being out there. To recap, this is the last information that we have, and I want to bring you up to date if you are just joining us, and that is that there is a shooting rampage that, as we understand from Memphis police, could still be going on right now. It started quite some time ago this evening, and the person that they're looking for has been a 19-year-old, there you see him, he has been randomly shooting at people from areas in Raleigh, where we know he walked into an AutoZone and shot a man there, on Jackson Avenue, where we know that AutoZone Park is on lockdown because they want to keep fans safe and are taking precautions. Then you have Poplar and Evergreen, which is a Midtown location. That's the scene you're looking at here, where we understand there was a woman who was shot, who was wearing scrubs at the time. And then we have the U of M a little farther east that we know is on lockdown because of an apparent shooting at Patterson and Southern near the U of M campus. So that gives you kind of the range of where this suspect has been driving around and shooting people. The farthest east location we're aware of is the U of M campus. It goes as far north as Raleigh, and that's the AutoZone Park on Jackson. It goes as far west as the Poplar and Evergreen location you're looking at here. But we are under no illusions that there very well may be more. We're just trying to make sure that what we bring to you is confirmed and that we can tell you with certainty that that is where police are actively investigating and trying to find whatever clues they may be able to try and piece together how it happened, why it happened, and find who's responsible for making it happen. All that going on simultaneously in multiple parts of this city right now. Are we able to establish communications with Rebecca Butcher yet? If not, she was having trouble hearing earlier, so we weren't able to ask her any questions, but it would be good to get any new information that she's been able to ascertain at that location. And perhaps there's a scene commander at that AutoZone Park in Raleigh where RJ Shakura is also. Maybe there's an update there that we can get some clue, some inkling as to exactly how this transpired, and what witnesses may have seen, and that has been valuable to us, at least as far as this location here, Poplar and Evergreen, because if we hadn't been able to talk to the eyewitness who saw what went down here, we would not be able to share with you that this started as a 4-car crash, and that a man, that's presumably the suspect you see on the left side of your screen there, was acting like he was hurt and then proceeded to shoot a woman who was wearing scrubs at the time. And then, of course, there's this added element in this age of social media that is just as disturbing, that some of these shootings, maybe all of them, were being broadcast on Facebook Live as they happened. And as I also mentioned earlier, Facebook very good about monitoring for this kind of thing and taking down or canceling those accounts as soon as possible. So we have to presume that that has happened in this case here. And hopefully we have seen the last of the shootings tonight, because there have been multiple incidents, and we're in this phase of just trying to figure out, well, what order did they all happen in? Exactly how many victims are we talking about here? Were there any other confirmed locations that police have not shared with us yet, other than the ones we're aware of? We're trying to nail down whether another shooting on East Parkway South near Cooper Young, the 900 block, might be another victim, but we don't know that. We just know that it happened about the same time, and as you look at that address, about the same area where some of the other shootings have occurred too. So that's just a big question mark right now, but we do know that there was a confirmed shooting on East Parkway South. All of this centered around a 19-year-old who started the shooting rampage, and according to police, they still have not apprehended him for the crimes, I should say. We have a report from our Brad Broders that witnesses telling him that police have been going back and forth in front of the Pyro's restaurant on Union Avenue. Of course, that's in Midtown, actually not far from Cooper Young. So again, that's raising some questions, and we're just doing our best to nail down exactly why this guy would be running around killing people or trying to kill them randomly, and why is he presumably continuing to do this, and why he has not been caught yet. We know that, I'm not being critical here of Memphis police by any means, but gosh, it sure would be nice if we could at least rest easy knowing that he's in the back of a squad car somewhere getting ready for his first jail appearance tomorrow morning, which is what we'd like to see happen next. But we can't tell you that. We can't tell you that because police telling us that he is still at large, and just so you know, in addition to his picture that we have for you, we also know that he's driving around, at last report, a gray SUV, but he's also proven tonight that he's inclined to change cars if he needs to try and elude police, because that's happened at least once so far tonight, when he was originally in a blue sedan, and then at some point we get a confirmed report from police that he's switched cars and into a gray SUV, and then committing a couple more shootings. The most recent one, the one you're looking at Poplar and Evergreen. Before that, we're getting numerous reports, and then we also have the confirmation from U of M that the area of Patterson and Southern, which is near the U of M campus, is another location. So the campus taking the wise move there to put the school on lockdown. And then, of course, when police issued the alert that all of us in Memphis, honestly, if you're outside and out and about, you really need to get to a safe location, because there's no telling where he might strike next. As a bunch of precaution, then AutoZone Park takes the safety measure of putting the game on pause and telling fans to, we'll do this some other time, but we got to keep you safe. So yes, this shooting at the U of M, at Patterson and Southern, has been confirmed from the U of M now. This was a text that they have put out, so that we can nail down as another location here for sure. It does make sense, since we did know the U of M had put the campus on lockdown. That would affect any night classes. Obviously, most of the classes are not in effect right now, but they are being asked to stay indoors. In fact, the U of M requesting that the public shelter in place. So that is a pretty dramatic event when you think about that. People just going about the course of their business here on a Wednesday evening in Memphis, that we're having to basically put the whole city on lockdown. You can't cancel a baseball game downtown and close down a campus in Midtown and have a city police urge everyone to go inside and not say that is exactly the toll that this particular criminal is having on a city of more than 600,000 people. And we're all just waiting for word that the suspect they're looking for is finally caught and apprehended. You got to believe. Let's put up the face one more time if we can, the picture we have, because this really, we don't want anyone else to get shot. We don't want anyone else to become a victim. And the sooner someone spots him and can call 911 and say, hey, I think I saw him, the better. So take a good look. He's 19 years old. Again, we don't have the name confirmed yet from police. I wish they would give that to us, but we don't have it. But we can show you exactly what he looks like there. And we know that the police say he is still at large, and as long as he is, they're urging all the rest of us to stay indoors until he's been caught, because we don't want to have any more victims here. And we understand that perhaps the police effort might be focused now near Overton Square. Let me tell you why we're saying that. That's from our Brad Broders here, who's telling me via text that a chopper, police chopper, was spotted above Overton Square, and maybe our photographer on the ground there is trying to see if he can't find it in the sky. Now we're finally getting an identification here. Major Karen Rudolph from Memphis Police is joining us. Major, thank you for being with us. I understand you have positively identified this 19-year-old that you're looking for. What's his name? Can you hear me, Karen? Karen, it's Richard Ransom at ABC 24. Can you hear me? I hear some background noise, but I don't hear Karen. I am getting word of the tweet that's just been set out from Memphis Police. Ezekiel Kelly. Ezekiel Kelly is the confirmed suspect's name, 19 years old, and is been confirmed from Memphis Police as the suspect who's responsible for this shooting rampage. That at this point we have narrowed down to 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 locations, and we know of 2 victims for sure. At the AutoZone Park on Raleigh, on Jackson Avenue, we know that a man was shot there, and we know that a woman, this is based on an eyewitness account, was shot by the suspect at Poplar and Evergreen, which has led police to take the action you see there, and that's basically shut down the intersection. They've got the crime scene tape up. I don't even know how many emergency vehicles have responded to that scene. Yet, despite that police presence there, the location of Ezekiel Kelly remains a mystery at this point, and the search is in full force to try and find him as soon as possible before anyone else will get hurt. You know, I know that this is disturbing, a very disturbing story. I'm disturbed, certainly reporting it to you. I'm getting texts, I'm sure. Hey, Karen, are you on the phone now?
Hey, it's Brittany.
Brittany, okay. Brittany, what can you tell us about what you're seeing?
So right now I'm actually in Midtown, and we've been seeing police officers go back and forth. Helicopters are appearing to do some kind of a search. I'm locked down inside of a restaurant right now, and I apologize if I sound a little shaky because it is a scary situation. It's even hard to keep the composure. It took a while before a lot of businesses had closed and locked their doors, and that's one of the issues that some people had. I know that's the issue that I had because we were sitting here and we're hearing the reports and still no one locked the doors. The other thing is you see a lot of people still walking out on the street as, you know, there's no alert that went out. At least I didn't receive one, and the people that I'm with didn't receive one. And so there's people that are still walking out on the street, and what I can only imagine probably don't even have any idea of what's going on. But right now, you know, I'm in a restaurant. I'm safe, so I'm thankful for that. The people in here are safe. We're all kind of stuck in here and just watching alerts as we get them, watching alerts as we see them, checking our phones, listening to newscasts. We actually turned all the TVs in this restaurant on so that way we can get alerts. You know, there are people here that are ready to get home, especially the workers. The restaurant I'm in is supposed to close, and people are trying to get home to their kids and can't leave. So I'm kind of at a loss for words, especially what we've seen. I mean, it's a scary situation, not knowing what's going on or exactly where this suspect is. But like I said, businesses around here are starting to lock their doors. The one that I'm in has definitely locked their doors. And I know I was one of the people who asked about it, and a friend of mine asked to lock doors. I'm not sure if other people did, but we've all been watching, we've all been paying attention. Like I said, people want to go home anxiously to their families, but we can't leave at this time. I literally just saw about 3 officers speed by. You can hear the sirens every now and then. And a little while ago, we saw the helicopters. So we're just waiting to hear and trying to stay as safe as possible. Most of the people are kind of kind of towards the back of not the back of the restaurant, but away from where the doors and exits are, so that way we can stay and see what's going on on the street. So we're all just inside trying to make sure that we're all safe and updating each other when we hear different information and the latest information.
Well, Brittany, I apologize for introducing you as Karen Rudolph. I know that's not your name, but we have been trying to establish phone contact with Karen Rudolph. She's, of course, the major with the Memphis Police Department who does such a good job of trying to keep us up to date on crime scenes, no matter when they happen or where they happen. And we had hoped to establish phone contact with her, and then you popped up, which is fine. I'm glad to hear from you. You, again, are at the Saltwater Crab. Where is that located, and about how many people were in the restaurant when you were told you had to shelter in place?
So at first when we got here, the restaurant was pretty full. People started getting the alerts of shooter being nearby or just around the area. And a lot of it, we don't know what's confirmed, what's not, because it's just blowing up on social media. So people started to leave, but by the time they locked the doors, there's probably about maybe 20 of us that are still here, and we're just watching the news to see what happens to get as much information as possible. Like I said, this restaurant was supposed to close, I believe, at around 9, and so we don't know how long we'll be here. And yeah, it's crazy, and it's surprising for me to just see people still, outside, and I can only imagine they probably didn't know for some. And then the simple fact that, like I said, I'm upset because we had to ask to get the doors put on locks, and some of the employees even wanted the doors unlocked. So,
yeah, I can totally relate to that. I mean, who wants to be stuck in a restaurant if you feel like your safety might be in danger, or your family who you want to get to them and give them a hug and make sure they're safe? I can see why people would be very uncomfortable in that situation. I mean, I've got a text from Susan Adler Thorpe, one of our political consultants, was at the Roost Chris restaurant in East Memphis when they locked that place down. The manager walked her to her car and she drove back on the streets. Not sure she should have done that, given what police are suggesting now, but it seems like police feel that enough of the public is in danger here that they're urging the whole city to just basically shelter in place for right now. That shot we're showing people of Poplar and Evergreen, you saw Matt, a bus there making a left turn. That may be the last bus you see do that for a while, because Matt is now telling us that they have suspended all bus service in the city of Memphis right now. So Matt is shut down. We know AutoZone Park is on lockdown. The game suspended there. U of M is on lockdown. No active threat there, telling us, this just coming into me a few seconds ago, no active threat there right now, but they are encouraging people just to stay off the streets. And that really is the best advice right now. They had to deal with a shooting involving the suspect at Patterson and Southern. Don't know if someone was, it's just a shooting reported is what we're being told. We don't know that there was a victim at that particular scene, but we do know there was a female victim at the one you're looking at here on your screen, Poplar and Evergreen. We do know that there was a male victim at the AutoZone Park on Jackson in Raleigh, and that the way this is unfolded in each location seems very as random as the crimes themselves. In the case of the AutoZone, the suspect, we're told, just walked into the store and shot a guy. We're told that in the case that you're looking at here, there was a 4-car crash that may or may not have been precipitated by the suspect, but that the suspect was acting like he was hurt and shot a woman who was wearing scrubs at the time. And the randomness of this and the unpredictability of it is why city police now are saying, let's just, out of abundance of caution, you need to, wherever you are, let's just shelter in place until we can find him. And when something like this happens, you of course have the social media that goes that blows up, but nonetheless, you got to try and get your information from mainstream services you can trust. And Brittany, that's why we're so glad to have you on the phone sharing with us what you're observing and knowing that this scene is being repeated at restaurants all over the city. I wonder if you decided, I'm just going to leave. I mean, they're not going to forcibly keep you inside, right?
Right now, I'm not sure if they would make us stay. I haven't seen anybody leave within like the last 30 minutes.
Okay.
So
well, how were you approached? How were you told? Did a manager just get up and announce
well,
to the restaurant, you got to stay here because their police are saying you need to shelter in place, or what were you told?
Actually, no. No one actually said anything. When I first got to the restaurant, that's when we got the alert that there had been an active shooter. And so when we went inside, of course, we wanted to go inside the restaurant instead of being outside. And, we were talking to the manager, mentioned, that there's an active shooter. And the manager was aware, but police were going up and down the street. So they were like, we're okay for now. And then as we started hearing reports about the shooter being near our area, that's when they locked down the door. But they did not make a announcement or anything like that. I actually learned from another customer here because they were outside on the patio and they moved indoors and they said that they were locking the doors. And then I asked a member of the staff and they did confirm that they locked the doors. Okay.
And about how many people are there in the restaurant with you, did you say?
There's about 20 of us. Right now it's actually because they locked the doors down, that has people, pretty calm. There wasn't a lot of chaos or anything like that in the restaurant. Like I said, at first the restaurant was pretty full and people started to leave as the alert started to come in. But the remainder of us that are in here, everything seems pretty calm. No panic or anything like that. Like I said, everyone is just basically watching the news and calling loved ones. I've heard employees on the phone with loved ones, checking to make sure people were safe. They're them checking in. I've had people call me from, out of town just to see, are you okay? So I can tell you that it's definitely a little bit of a relief knowing that we're locked down inside and not outside.
Okay. And, just what's going through your mind? I mean, you're a reporter who gets to cover the good and the bad and the ugly of Memphis, Tennessee on a daily basis, and there is plenty of good too. We should keep in mind, despite a situation like this. But what goes through your mind, the fact that you're basically a prisoner in a restaurant right now, waiting for Memphis police to catch a suspect who's randomly shooting people?
Richard, it's honestly hard to even explain. When I literally say I'm shaking right now, I'm a little shaking because you hear about this happening. And it's not that, and to be on precaution, to be cautious and watch your surroundings and that kind of thing. But, something like this is just unexpected, and especially when you don't know where the person is. And, it's hard for me to even explain. I'm actually with a friend who's from Memphis, but came back. She doesn't live in Memphis, but came back down to visit her family. And we just decided to go, just a normal day. We just decided to grab something to eat because we both got off of work. And now we're stuck, so it's definitely a scary situation. It's almost make you concerned, like you can't go anywhere nowadays. And that's the frustration, you can't go to the store, you can't go to school, you can't go to a restaurant. And it's so frustrating that we even have to go through this. Like we're tired.
Yeah. And we all relate to that because we cannot relate to your feelings because we cannot relate to the mentality of someone who would be going around a city and randomly shooting at people he doesn't know and just wants to hurt them and possibly kill them. It's just incomprehensible, and so we're left with trying and just stay track, keep up to what he's been up to, try to inform people the best we can, and just know we are right there with you and cannot fully explain our frustration and anger that this is having to even be a story tonight, that we're having to deal with pleas from a police department the size of Memphis and a city the size of Memphis saying, hey, folks, you got to stay inside. You got to shelter in place until we find them. Now, we do, in the effort to find them, we should share some new information that we have. This is from Memphis Police on the car that they are looking for. We mentioned it was a gray SUV. We have confirmed it actually is a gray Toyota SUV. There was some question about that earlier. And not only is it a gray Toyota SUV, I don't know exactly which model, but we do know the make. And we know that it has Arkansas tags. In fact, I even have a license plate number to share with you. That license plate number is AEV 63K. AEV 63K is the license plate that they're looking for of the gray SUV that has Arkansas tags. And hopefully, if someone does happen to be out and about and sees a vehicle matching that description, boy, please don't waste any time in calling 911 and letting authorities know that you have likely spotted the vehicle in question here and the suspect who's driving it. trying to look through some of our other information sources here, see what else we've been able to piece together here for you. The scenes that we're aware of. Okay, we do have Lieutenant Rudolph, Major Rudolph. I'm sorry, Major Rudolph. I hear you're on the phone with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Richard Ransom, thank you. I know this is a crazy night. Just bring us up to speed on the latest information you have about Ezekiel Kelly and where your efforts are concentrated right now in trying to find him.
So I don't have his location. We don't know where he's at right now, but I do have additional information as far as the tag number.
Okay.
It's going to be a silver or gray Toyota with Arkansas tag. Alpha Echo Victor 63 Kilo.
Okay.
And AEV 63K.
Gotcha. We'll put that on the screen. Ezekiel Kelly, we have reporters, Major, who are out and about and are seeing large police presence, not only there at Poplar and Evergreen where there was a shooting, but also they're hearing choppers above the air, in the air, I should say, above Overton Square. Is that where you're concentrating your search right now?
Right now we're following up on several different locations. I don't have them right now. I don't have the exact locations.
Okay.
We're just trying to piece together all the information to find out which incident he's involved with.
Okay. Can you tell me, we've been trying to, do you know how many locations we're dealing with right now where he may have fired shots?
I don't. The last that I received was around 5 different locations. Like I said, we're trying to verify if he's responsible for those.
Right.
So again, the most important information is for people.
Yes, we need to get this guy. Absolutely. And we've been putting his face on the screen constantly tonight, hoping that will help you in your efforts to try and find Ezekiel Kelly. Again, the new information from Major Rudolph, Arkansas tags AEV63K. You say a Toyota SUV. Do you know the particular model? I know the make is Toyota, but do you know which kind of SUV Toyota makes that he's...
I do not yet. The tag apparently does not come back to the vehicle, or
Okay.
It's not coming back showing as registered, so I can't verify that, but as soon as we get more information, we'll be pushing it out. So I just ask for everybody to stay on our social media, and they'll get updated as soon as we get information.
And when was the decision made to urge people to shelter in place, and how did you come to that conclusion?
I don't know the exact time. I pushed it out as soon as we decided that that's what we needed to do. If you have somebody out that's firing shots, we have multiple locations. We don't know what his motive is, so the best thing is for everybody to stay at home, shelter in place until we can get him in custody.
Absolutely. And to those who are concerned about, gee, I really want to, I know you're telling me to shelter in place at this restaurant, but I really want to get to my wife and kids who are several miles away, you would say to them what?
I would tell them to shelter in place where they are. I mean, like any emergency situation that happens, if everybody is sheltered in place, then you know everybody's safe.
I want to let you go because I know you're busy, but let me just run through. The locations we're aware of are the AutoZone on Jackson and Raleigh. We're aware that there was a shooting at Patterson and Southern that had the U of M issuing a lockdown there. We know about the one we have a live picture of now that people are looking at, a Poplar and Evergreen. That's 3. And we know that there was a shooting at 946 East Parkway South earlier this evening. Is that believed to be another one of them?
It may possibly be involved with this as well. Like I said, a lot of information's coming in. We've got a lot of things working. I don't want to provide the wrong information. So as soon as we can get all the details, then we will get that out.
Any of the victims dead that you know of?
I don't have that information.
Okay, all right, I'm going to let you go, but I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll get in contact with you later if you can give us some new and updated information.
Okay, thank you.
All right, be good. We appreciate you. All right, so we've learned more, and that's beneficial. We appreciate Major Rudolph coming on the air with us to share what she has. She said as many as 5 locations, but I've only was able to get 4 out of her for sure. But at least we have some parameters there that we know about, and there may be a 5th location too. We just don't know the exact address or who the victim may or may not be, but we are aware of at this point as we try to go through the information that we've gotten confirmed from Memphis Police. We know that there are 4, maybe 5 locations, that the locations range from Raleigh to the north to Patterson and Southern to the east near the U of M campus, to Poplar and Evergreen, which is in Midtown, and also in Midtown, 946 East Parkway South, near Cooper Young. Major Rudolph believes is another location. We know that MATA has suspended trolley and bus service due to this citywide active shooter situation. We know that that U of M is on lockdown as a result of the situation and the shooting that occurred near Patterson and Southern. We know that everyone's being asked to shelter in place where they are until the suspect is caught. And we know that the suspect is believed to be driving around in an Arkansas, a gray SUV with Arkansas tags, AEV 63K, that don't necessarily match with the make and model that is being driven. So that's interesting. Raises questions that a stolen vehicle may be involved here. Also, we know that the suspect, Ezekiel Kelly, is really the focus of the citywide effort right now to find him. He's 19 years old. Originally, with the initial shootings, he was posting them on Facebook, and that he was just basically randomly going from one location to another, firing at anyone who got in his way, and tried different methods at each location, whether it be just walking into the store in the case of the AutoZone in Raleigh, or whether it be staging perhaps a 4-car crash at Poplar and Evergreen and pretending to be hurt and shooting anyone who tried to approach him and help him, because he didn't need help. Well, he doesn't need help, but he didn't need help medically, but he took advantage of people's generosity and kindness trying to help him, and returned that favor by shooting at them. In the case of Poplar and Evergreen, a woman, we don't know what age, who the eyewitnesses are telling us was wearing medical scrubs at the time. So that is the most current information that we have. We've been hearing from people, many of you viewers who've been concerned about your safety, the safety of your family. You've been just going out to dinner. In the case of our reporter, Brittany Moncrief, at the Saltwater Crab, when she was told that the restaurant was on lockdown. Another friend of this television station, Susan Adler Thorpe, at Roost Chris Steakhouse there in East Memphis, told that the restaurant was closing down and to shelter in place, and she was escorted to her car by a manager. But that's what this one person, the effect that this one person is having on this entire city right now, and that is why Major Rudolph was adamant about asking for everyone's help in finding him, so that there are no more victims. But as I've been talking to you here since that Poplar and Evergreen scene now for probably 30 minutes or so, at least thankfully, we haven't heard about any more random shootings in that period of time. Brittany Moncrief, let me go back to you. You're at the Saltwater Crab, and you said you were with about 20 people who are also sheltering in place with you?
Yes, there's about 20 of us here. We're kind of just waiting it out. There's really nothing else that, we can do. And I don't think anybody wants to leave out, honestly, at this time. Like I said earlier, there's some people that, want to get home and want to get home to their families. But once we started hearing that some of the areas or those locations weren't too far from where we were, and you started seeing more police officers coming down Madison back and forth, they put the building on the restaurant on lockdown, and now we're all just sitting here literally just watching the news, updating each other on what we hear, calling family, loved ones, friends, checking in to let them know that we're safe. But there's no panic or anything inside of the restaurant, which I'm really thankful for. And I think a lot of that goes to the owner locking the doors.
Yeah, I mean, that's the right thing to do. And when your police department feels that there's that kind of risk to public safety, that they issue something like this, I've never been aware of a time that they've done this, at least not in recent memory, you take that seriously and you heed that caution. Brittany, we have received word, unfortunately, that the person who was shot at the location at Poplar and Evergreen, we just know that that person is dead because that our reporter on the scene has seen the body. And so we know of at least one death as a result of this. turn of events that started this evening. And there may be more, but that is the only confirmed death that we have at this point, although we know other people, multiple other people have been shot at these different locations that we've been telling you about. Once again, that is according to our crews at the scene. Police have not confirmed how that person died, but we do know that our reporter at the scene has seen that to be the case, that a person is dead there at the scene you're looking at Evergreen and Poplar. We're still waiting to hear for word on the conditions of the other victims that were shot at the other locations. We're aware that the city is actively in an active manhunt right now for Ezekiel Kelly. He's 19 years old. We know the choppers are in the air looking for him. We could not get from Major Rudolph that there was really a focused area of this search right now, other than what we have learned from our crews who are out and about, that there is a chopper above the Overton Square area searching, and that would lead one to believe that's certainly one of the areas. There may be others, but we do know that Overton Square is certainly one location where they're actively looking right now. We know that that the suspect is driving around in a gray Toyota SUV with Arkansas tags AEV 63K. The police are saying if you see him, please call them immediately, call 911 and let them know. We know that the University of Memphis campus is on lockdown, although it's approaching 9 o'clock at night, so that probably isn't affecting a whole lot of people at this point. They're just urging people to stay off the streets, and that, of course, is wise advice right now. And we know that the game involving the Redbirds downtown at AutoZone Park was suspended for now to keep fans safe, and again follow along with this citywide issued order from the Memphis police to shelter in place. And that is exactly what a lot of retail establishments, and in the case of AutoZone Park, baseball stadiums, how they are reacting how they're reacting to this alert that has the whole city trying to find one man. And so far that man has been able to avoid capture. And the result of that is you have a city of close to 650,000 people just wanting to feel at least somewhat safe again, knowing that someone who's willing to randomly shoot and kill people is apprehended, and they can at least feel somewhat relieved that that's the case. Let's go back to Brittany Moncrief on the phone. As I bring that new information on the car that people are looking for, Brittany, the gray Toyota SUV with Arkansas tags, again, license plate AEV63K. What, when you talk about the 18 to 20 people who are there, you said you're, by choice, trying to stay away from the windows and such. You're not wanting to necessarily be visible to anyone who might drive by.
Absolutely. The restaurant we're in, it has a lot of windows. It has a patio spot that's pretty exposed, but there's also a covering, but that is also, the covering is basically just windows all around. And so earlier there were people that were out on the patio area. It wasn't closed. I guess later in the year or later in the evening, they usually close it. So there were people that were out on the patio, but as we started hearing the reports of the shooter in the area where the shooter might have been, people started to come back indoors. Some people left. Myself and my friend, we chose not to leave. Right when we got here again, that's when we heard the alert, and so we decided from the beginning we were just going to stay inside and not be outside at all, because we didn't know, what was happening or where he was. So we have been here for probably over an hour, and like I said, the restaurant is supposed to close around 9:30, and we even talked to one of the employees, and she was like, it's a good chance we're not leaving, on time. And, the employee I spoke with, she has kids at home, and her whole goal was to get off work and go home to her kids, and now we're all stuck in here together. But I will say one thing is, it's comforting to have other people around, just because you can just lean on each other, go back and forth of what you see, update each other, and it's just helpful. But most of us are actually to the back of the restaurant instead of the front, and we are all facing near the exit so we can see where the exits are.
Okay.
And an employee did update us too where the exits were to make sure that we knew.
Very good. Well, that's taking a very responsible action there. When you were first told that that was the course of action to take, did they continue serving people food and beverage, or has that been suspended as well?
No, they're continuing to serve people. And I think a lot of people, especially beverages, I think a lot of people are still ordering because it's more of a comfort, something to ease their nerves, So, but my friend who I came with, like right when we heard about the shooter and we sat down and we ordered food immediately, she's like, my appetite is gone. Now my stomach is in knots. And, she just left her family, to come here for a little bit. And she's been calling back and forth to make sure that they're okay because they also don't live too far from here.
Mm-hmm. We're also getting reports from people that, and this is stuff we have to be careful of because it's not confirmed, but we just know that people are reacting outside the city of Memphis too, and that's relevant, that there was suspicious activity in South Haven by 55 in the state line there that has some people taking precautions there and wanting to report that to authorities that they think they may have seen someone matching the description there. And so, you just have, obviously this affects the whole metro area because I promise you, nothing is going to keep a guy who's capable of doing what police say he has done already. He's not worried about what city he's in and is perfectly capable of striking anyone anywhere he pleases until he's apprehended. And that's where things sit right now, is finding where he might be and getting him off the streets and behind bars as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
How are people handling this where you are, Brittany?
Right now, literally, I'm looking around the room and people are on their phones. Some people are just, speaking with each other because there's nothing we can do. We're pretty much stuck. So, but like everyone who works here, the employees, they're all gathered in one spot. They're talking to each other. They're all looking up at the news. We're watching. We have about 3 screens going right now that we're watching. Even earlier when people were out on the patio, they changed all the TV so even people out there can get updates. But now we're all inside. We, are talking to each other, communicating with each other, and trying to keep each other, as calm as possible. And that's a good thing. A lot of people are still calm. I haven't seen any chaos or anything in here, but there's definitely people worried. I just was sitting next to an employee who was calling home and calling people and checking to make sure, they were safe, and them calling her and make sure they were safe. I have family in Michigan. That's where I'm from, and they're calling me to make sure that I'm safe. And you hear about these things happening all the time. Just last week I heard back at, where I'm from, that something like this has happened. Maybe not along this line of scale, but there was a shooter that was going around there. And I remember telling my sister, like, that's crazy. And then a week later, literally, you're just getting off work, just going to meet up with a friend that's in town, and now you're stuck in a restaurant because there's a shooter that's out on the loose. I have loved ones who are on lockdown in other places. Some of my friends that I know who are near the University of Memphis, they've heard gunshots. And so we're kind of just pretty much checking in with each other every few minutes, really, it seems like, just to make sure that we're all safe. I have people from the station, who are contacting to make sure that we're all safe and doing check-ins, So that helps a lot because especially when you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening. And, this is between these 4 walls of this restaurant is all we know. And we can see out on the road, and you just see police officers going back and forth. They kind of died down, not as much police activity, so which is a little bit more calming.
Okay, yeah, that is, I can imagine so. We have one of our digital producers who's at the Celtic Crossing in Cooper Young, and they were getting dinner when they were told to shelter inside. I'm seeing these different reports on our intercommunication system as we see it's affecting everybody, and it only makes sense that would be the case. So it is just past the 9 o'clock hour, so let's reset if we can here on ABC 24 and just let you know what we're in the midst of right now. We are in the midst of an active manhunt throughout the city of Memphis, one that is so involved and so serious and being taken so seriously by police that they're encouraging everyone to shelter inside, shelter in place where they are, because they need to find a 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly who has been randomly shooting people and without any regard, other than just to do it. And we know there are multiple victims. There are multiple locations right now. Let me try to run down what we know about some of those locations at this point. Major Karen Rudolph with the Memphis PD says there are as many as 5 where she, at last count from her last information, but we can only nail down 4 of them at this point. We know that there was a man that was shot at the AutoZone on Jackson in Raleigh tonight. We know that a woman is dead at the Poplar and Evergreen in Midtown, and that is what you're looking at here. That whole intersection shut down. We know there was shooting, or at least shots fired, at Patterson and Southern near the U of M campus at the time when this first happened, although classes presumably are no longer taking place right now, any night classes. The U of M immediately putting the campus on lockdown and requesting that everyone shelter in place. We know that AutoZone Park is now on lockdown, that they put the game on pause, and presumably the longer this goes, they'll just suspend the game and reschedule. But they, and again, out of abundance of caution to keep fans safe, they put AutoZone Park on lockdown downtown. We know that MATA has suspended all bus service and trolley service throughout the city because of this alert from Memphis police urging everyone to shelter in place. We don't know the order of when these shootings occurred. We don't know whether any more have occurred very recently. We just know that Memphis police are looking desperately to try and find Ezekiel Kelly so they can tell people that there is no longer a need to shelter in place, that you can go home and see your families and relax at least a little once they find who they're looking for. We do know that 1 person is confirmed dead. This is the scene at Poplar and Evergreen. We know that Ezekiel Kelly is believed to be in a gray Toyota SUV, and that SUV has Arkansas tags, and the Arkansas tag number is AEV63K. AEV63K. All of this, the result of a shooting rampage that began this evening, shooting rampage that began this evening, and police are fearful there may be more shootings if they don't hurry up and catch Ezekiel Kelly as soon as possible. We do know that the suspect, before getting in that gray SUV, had driven another car when committing at least the first 1 or 2 shootings. In that case, it was a blue sedan, an Infiniti, we believe. The rear window was busted out, and then at some point transferred into another car, and that's the gray Toyota SUV that he is believed to be in now. We have some other witness reports of a shooting at East Parkway South that is near Cooper Young. There was a victim there. Major Rudolph with Memphis Police thought that that was related to the shooting spree that we're reporting to you, but she wouldn't go full, wouldn't say there was 100% confirmation on that particular shooting. So that's 4 of them, and she thought there were 5, but she didn't remember where the 5th one was. That's the situation as we have it. We know that people all over town are in, whether they're in restaurants or in baseball stadiums, they are sheltering in place and waiting for word of an all clear from Memphis police that they've found the suspect that they're looking for. It is really a scary night, and we've heard that from a number of people who were out and about when they got word that there was this suspect who was just shooting at random at people, and we also believe there, I'm getting some new information into me, but I want to make sure we've confirmed it first, that the notion that someone feels like it's okay just to go around shooting people is very, very disturbing, because we like to at least feel that if we take we take the precautions we're supposed to take as citizens and care for one another and do the right thing, that we don't have to worry about something like this happening. But apparently, at least at one of the situations, based on what we're hearing from eyewitnesses at the Poplar and Evergreen location, there was the suspect pretended to be hurt, but was not. Rebecca Butcher is our reporter at that scene at Poplar and Evergreen. Rebecca, what can you tell us about what you're seeing there? What has you been able to learn from any scene commanders that are there? And what are you observing that police are doing or looking for where you're located there?
Richard, yes. Well, I was first here to get on the scene here at Poplar in Auburndale. Not far from here is where a woman was shot after an eyewitness to that shooting said that suspect with that handgun, quote, was acting like he was hurt, going up to a couple of vehicles after a 4-car crash here in the area. I did learn from him that he went up to this woman. He says that she was in scrubs. She was in her car, but she was also getting out, likely to figure out this car wreck situation, and he shot her. So right now we do believe, based on this eyewitness account, that it was someone in the medical profession who was shot here. We have since learned that person, was rushed to the hospital, and we're still. Of course, it's an emotional scene. Let me show you what we're seeing here. We've seen them here in the area at least for the last hour. It's been more than that. They've been very quiet. As soon as I got here, I was asking police crews, if they could identify this as the victim that was hurt, if the suspect was still in the area. They're very tight-lipped right now, of course. If you've been watching this coverage, you know that we have gotten alerts from the city to stay inside and as well. Now, so far what's changed in this area since I've been here, ABC 24, it's definitely calmed down. The person who was shot has been moved out of the area. We do know that that car that she was in had been taken by this suspect. Now, that suspect we know is 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly. According to police, they have been warning people about this person. We now know he is driving a gray Toyota SUV with Arkansas tags, possibly driving east on Poplar Avenue, and he's responsible for multiple shootings, all while going on Facebook Live. Now, they don't have a specific location right now, so stay inside, folks. I was telling the people here on the scene, of course, people are always curious. We always get questions on a scene. Just really encourage people to get inside, get elderly people, anyone who might be driving a little bit slower, who might have a distance home tonight. Get to where you can, get to a loved one's home and stay inside. Of course, this is a very, it's a little bit more of an eerie scene now, but things have calmed down since that person who was shot has been moved out of the area. We also know MATA has suspended trolley and bus services as well, and the victim has passed as well, we have learned from authorities. So if you have any information, really don't even try to get information. Just follow what Memphis police are saying. Usually we ask, if you see anything, call 901-528-CASH, but at this point I would say, if you see anything online, report that to police. That's what would be my personal recommendation, experiencing scenes like this. So, of course, we are working to gather more details. And like you said, Richard, it is a bit much more overwhelming, too much for Memphis, the Bluff City. This happening just days after, of course, Eliza Fletcher was identified as well. We've been on that case as well. Back to you.
Yeah, a lot to absorb this week for sure, and this incident tonight is only going to lead to people's consternation about what's going on here. But I want to ask you about that particular scene. When we saw you earlier, your previous live report, it looked like there was, even though there's a substantial live presence there still, it looks like some of the police presence has left that scene. As they've done that, have they said where they're going, or are they moving on to another area where they are hearing Ezekiel Kelly, I believe his nickname is Zeke, where he might be, where the search is concentrated?
Yeah, no, our crew hasn't heard specifically from officers here on this scene. Of course, we continue to work our contacts to get more information. It does seem random. There are some reports of what might have been posted on Instagram, but I'm working to confirm that information. Of course, before we share that, we're all about, facts, not fear, even though this is a very fearful and scary situation for people. So we are hearing from someone who sounds like he might know something about this situation, and it is, of course, a time where you do want to. Of course, it's early now, but any solutions, from leaders, coming off of coverage of how we can tackle crime has always been a thing for Memphis, and of course we've got eyes on our city now more than ever, more than usual. But anything we can do to, whether it's education or speaking with church leaders or mentors, we've been doing those stories, back to back, Richard.
Yeah, and as a Memphis native, and I know you love your city, it's hard to have weeks like this where you have random victims who apparently, no, not apparently, absolutely, were doing nothing wrong other than being a part of their normal daily, nightly routines, daily in the case of Eliza Fletcher and nightly in the case of the victims that have been randomly shot tonight. To know that this kind of thing can happen, it's just really concerning, and it's just really, it's disturbing, and you can, as you said, you can understand why people are fearful.
Absolutely. It just occurred to me this morning, it's different. We've just had the murder of Reverend Easton Williams over, in Whitehaven. Love the Whitehaven community, historic community here in the city of Memphis. That carjacking that turned into a homicide. We sat down with her husband as well. So these people, of course, everyone has a light to give. Every life has value. And I think that's important to remember. And this is, just not, of course, my personal opinion. I think most people can agree with that, of course. But just speaking with other leaders about the plans that they have to really solve this crime problem is now more than ever on our minds now. Richard.
Right, absolutely, and we appreciate your hard work there, Rebecca. We are getting a little bit more of an indication from Memphis Police about where this may be shifting as they try to find Ezekiel Kelly, and that is near Ivan Road and Hodge Road. I'm looking at a tweet from Memphis Police saying everyone in that area of Ivan Road and Hodge Road to shelter in place and stay indoors. We're hearing that that is where a lot of the police presence has moved, is in that particular location. And forgive me, there's so many street names in this city. I try to do my best to know most of them that I can, but that looks to be near Rains Road, near the Will Carruthers ball complex. That's generally speaking where we're talking about here, that if you are anywhere near that you absolutely shelter in place in that location, because that is the exact request as we have it from Memphis Police, although earlier, as we've been telling you, that pretty much includes the entire city, but nonetheless, they really felt strongly enough about it in the case of that location that they're asking everyone to take every precaution they can and stay inside. Hopefully, this means they're narrowing down where he is, and they are getting close to apprehending him so we can get the all clear and bring this active situation to a close, and then try to piece together exactly what kind of damage and what else has been done during the course of this rampage that started this evening. And as far as Memphis Police are concerned right now, is still going on as we speak, and they're trying to piece together not only where is Ezekiel Kelly, goes by the nickname Zeke, but they're also trying to piece together exactly what he's done in the course of this evening rampage that has, as far as they're concerned, is still he's still considered an active shooter. There is still concern that he might shoot other people. And so they have tried to, obviously locate where he is, and they seem to be focusing mostly on the area I've just told you about at Ivan Road and Hodge Road. So in the meantime, we have MATA, the city's bus service, suspending all trolley service downtown and bus service throughout the city as a result of this active shooter. We have restaurants, as we've been telling you, hearing from people at restaurants who were just trying to enjoy a nice dinner when they got word that the city was being put on a lockdown or shelter-in-place order. And we have the U of M campus also doing the same thing, and probably several other establishments that maybe have not tweeted about it, but we know that people being responsible are taking the kind of precautions that they have to make sure that people stay safe, especially if they're under their roof in the case of restaurants or what have you. The places where we know there have been shooting victims, number one would be this one here. The one we're showing you is the location at Poplar and Auburndale. That has the intersection closed down, and we know that the victim in this case has been removed from the scene, but obviously still a large police presence there trying to gather evidence and figure out what's happened there. We believe the shooting before that was at Patterson and Southern. That's near the U of M campus, which obviously led to the lockdown of the university. And we know that there was also a shooting at the AutoZone store on Jackson. That's in the Raleigh area. So yet another victim there. We don't know their condition at this point. We also believe from Memphis police, as you look at the AutoZone location, we also believe that there was, we know there was a shooting at 946 East Parkway South near Cooper Young, but we don't know for sure that the shooter they're looking for was in any way involved there. Might be an unrelated crime, but Major Rudolph of the Memphis Police Department believed that that was probably connected. So those are the shooting locations we have. She thought there were as many as 5. We only know about those 4, but that's the breadth of which different areas of town have been affected. The people who were just innocent victims obviously affected, their families affected tonight. A number of people, all of us, in fact, affected, because when a whole city is put on lockdown or asked to shelter in place, that's affecting tens of thousands of people and is not to be minimized. I mean, this is a very serious situation, one that we hope is drawing to a close rapidly at the area of Ivan and Hodge roads, and that's only because of, thank heavens for social media. I mean, it's got its blessings and its curses, but you got to say the way you're able to quickly get word out, as they've been able to do, about where they're searching and where they're actively telling people that they need to stay inside. That is very helpful to all of us to know basically where their efforts are primarily concentrated. So we're keeping on it. We're doing our best to stay on top of all of this, and it's disturbing. It is not a pleasant night to be bringing you breaking news, but we know that everyone is interested in knowing that anyone who could randomly shoot people and just drive around areas of town and do so is a concern to all of you, and we're just standing by, hoping that we'll be able to bring you very soon word that they've apprehended Ezekiel Kelly sooner rather than later. One more time, the 19-year-old is the suspect that police say they have been looking for since early this evening. They say he was driving around in a gray Toyota SUV with Arkansas tags, and they, according to an eyewitness account, he used a handgun. At least one of the victims, an eyewitness who saw the shooting, and we know that you know, the important thing is here is to, even though it's affecting a lot of people, it's important to also keep it in perspective. You know, there's no, even though you have a reason to be afraid, and this is a situation where crime really seems to hit home, it's also one person, and that one person is, well, in most likelihood, going to get caught tonight. And in fact, I am happy to tell you, I'm just being told in my ear that the suspect is in custody. That is great news. So you're hearing it here first. Ezekiel Kelly has been apprehended. He is no longer a danger to this community. That is just a blessing and great news for really tens of thousands of people in the city who've been concerned about, we got to catch this guy so no one else get shot. We can report to you, confirm to you that he has in fact been apprehended. I'm going to presume that that's in the area of Ivan and Hodge Roads where that tweet went out and they said everyone in that area needed to absolutely shelter in place. Reading between the lines, that means that's where they were actively shooting, or searching, I should say, for the shooter, and hopefully have found him. So a collective sigh of relief, shall we, that is finally the case, that we don't have to worry about any other innocent victims out there. There have been more than enough for one night, and we can at least rest a little bit easy that the suspect has been found and is in custody right now. All right, so the damage he's done, that's going to be the next question, and we don't know the answer to it right now. We only have some peripheral information that we've been getting as these different crime scenes have developed throughout the evening, but we can tell you that there are at least 4, possibly 5 different locations, 4, possibly 5 possible victims in all of this, and we don't have any idea of a motive. I don't know if we're ever going to understand how someone could do this, but nonetheless, that the actions of one individual pretty much had a city paralyzed, trying to figure out where this guy is so that they can rest easy and not know that they may not be his next target. And that is the case. We can tell you now. Ezekiel Kelly apprehended by Memphis police literally within the last couple of minutes. So that is just great news. And we're happy to share it with you that is the case. But it has not been without some very scary moments of ranging from Raleigh to the U of M campus area to the Midtown area of Poplar and Auburndale, and likely, I would say, if you had to, based on what the information we have, a majority of the shootings did occur roughly in the Midtown area, bounded by the U of M campus area at Patterson and Southern, over there by Poplar and Auburndale, where you're looking at now, and also in the shooting that we learned about at East Parkway South, also near Cooper Young. So that gives you an idea of where 3 of the 4 that we know about took place. Ezekiel Kelly believed to be responsible for all of them, and I don't want to leave out the shooting at the AutoZone in Raleigh, but it is near Ivan Road and Hodge Road where police were asking for people to shelter in place specifically. And we have a crew that's on the way to the scene there, of course, and we'll try to get more information to you as soon as they are able to get there and set up and get some information from a scene commander or someone who is in a position to talk about what happened and how he was apprehended. Where was he when they apprehended him? Was there any resistance when they finally found out his location? We're going to try and get answers to all of that as we get information from officers and commanders that are on the scene there. It's just part of when you're doing a breaking news situation, you get to see our processes right there out in front of you, and we can't give you the information until we get the information, and that is sometimes the challenge because in defense of police, it's not always easy to piece together everything and know that it's true. You know, they hate nothing more than to tell us something that we, of course, then tell you, and then they find out that it's wrong, and then we have to come back and backtrack. So that's the goal here, and I'd certainly rather wait a few minutes to find out answers to those questions and get it right than to have to do any kind of speculation. So that's where it sits right now. But the bottom line is a piece of information we can verify is that the suspect Ezekiel Kelly has been apprehended. There's no longer an active shooter that is a threat to the city of Memphis, as has been the case for the last several hours. The locations, as I mentioned, were primarily in the Midtown U of M area, but there's also the one in Raleigh. Do we have a video of that store? We had a live shot there earlier. That is the store on Jackson. There you go. And is this a live picture? No, this is an edited video. And but that was the scene not that long ago as police were checking out for evidence, looking at whatever pieces of evidence they can piece together as they try to figure out what happened in that location. But that was the first location we got wind of that there was a person who was dangerous on the streets and was a threat to the public. Then it wasn't much longer that we heard about a couple of others, and it wasn't much longer after that that Memphis police decided it was time to ask people to shelter in place. And there was a long period after this shooting here that you're looking at Poplar and Auburndale, Evergreen area, that we were kind of in waiting mode. We knew that he was still on the run. We knew shortly after that the SUV he was driving had Arkansas tags. We knew the tag number, so we knew they were getting close. And at that point, we were just hoping and praying that there wouldn't be another shooting and another victim. And as far as we know, there has not been. We just know that it was about, I don't know, about an hour after this scene here, maybe longer than that, as restaurants around the city were going into shelter-in-place mode, as baseball games were being canceled, as MATA was shutting its bus service, as U of M was going in lockdown, as all this response was taking place. Looks like our shot is frozen there, but that they were getting close to finding the guy they were looking for. And this is where he was arrested, right here at Ivan Road and Hodge Road. That's in the 38109 zip code. So the relief of everyone, we at least know that we don't have to worry about there being any more shootings and more innocent victims in light of what's happened here this evening. But it's been a rough ride. I mean, it has not been at all, I don't know, it's just been very disturbing, as you've heard from our reporters. I relate to that. I think most people watching relate to that, that this kind of thing is even, that anyone would be capable of this kind of thing. It is, you know, the worst part of humanity. It's disgusting. And to see that someone could do something like this, just randomly drive around and shoot people for no apparent reason, is just really concerning that that can happen. And then you see why people are hesitant to go outside, why they bring up the crime problem over and over again, because boy, this week we sure have been exposed to it, haven't we? We've seen it in its most raw form and its most evil form. When you have a teacher, junior kindergarten teacher, going out for a morning jog, who can't do that without being apprehended and killed. And now all the different, and those stories will be coming in the days to come, all the different families, all the different people who related to the victims from today, who are going to have to bury their loved ones, bury their friends, who were doing nothing but just going on their evening routine when someone decided to show up and just randomly start firing. So it's been a difficult few days here in Memphis, no doubt about it. And we're, I often think that Memphis kind of gets a bad rap when it comes to the crime situation, because usually the victims are not random. Usually it's some kind of other situation. It might be a drug deal gone bad or a domestic violence situation, who knows. But usually, as police will tell you, the suspect knows the victim somehow. And that not being the case with these two very high-profile crimes, which this will obviously be another national news story as well tonight, that there can also be these random crimes too, has people on edge, and it has people on edge understandably. So what we're doing now is, just to bring you up to speed here, is I understand we have a crew on the way to that location of Ivan and Hodge Roads, where Ezekiel Kelly was finally apprehended after shooting an untold number of people at an untold number of locations. We're just reasonably sure that where they took place, but what we really don't have a lot of information right now is the victims themselves. We know that there's one woman who has died, but we don't know necessarily that she was shot, although that is what the eyewitness says. There's just a lot that we're hearing from eyewitnesses, what our reporters have gathered doing their jobs, but really would like to get absolute and final confirmation from police about exactly how this all transpired. And they're going to do it. They'll likely have a news conference, hopefully before the evening ends. And, oh good, we've got Yvonne Thomas, who's with ABC 24. She is actually at that scene where Ezekiel Kelly was apprehended tonight, a short time ago. Yvonne, what can you tell us where you are?
Hey, Richard, good evening. This is exactly what we're seeing right now. It's a live look of everything. We're near Lakeview Road, not very far from Hodge and Ivan as well. This has been a very, very busy scene since we've been here for the last maybe 10 to 15 minutes. We've seen cars, police cars, MPD cars, but also undercover cop cars, as you see right now. They're also diverting traffic. This is a 2-lane roadway, definitely a secluded area. We can definitely see that there's a couple of street lights here, but again, we've been told that residents, as you can see right now, people are trying to get home and get to their homes or get through this intersection, and they can't. We do know that residents do live nearby. There's a business actually not too far from where police are gathering. It looks like it's called Blue Light Lounge, to give you a better idea of what the situation is. What we can tell you right now is that this is where we believe that that shooter was apprehended. We have not seen him. We haven't seen any trace of him right now as we speak. We're going to keep you updated on that as well. So far, police are not speaking to us here at the grounds to see when they will actually have a press conference or when we'll be able to get any other information about that. But news crews, of course, are gathering, and you can see people trying to get around and navigate in this area as we're all trying to report on this. But again, this is an area where you don't want to be at. People have been told to get away from this area and to shelter in place. I think that definitely should still be the case at this time. You definitely don't want to be in this area. Find an alternative route. Police are working with people, trying to get people into their homes. It looks like they are diverting traffic and trying to help folks out. We're going to keep you updated as we learn more details. But again, this is near Lakeview Road, not far from Hodge and Ivy.
Oh, Yvonne, while I have you, have they given you any indication when they might have a news conference? Would it likely happen there, do you presume, or be able to answer some of our questions about how he was apprehended, how he was found, was there any resistance? I mean, the basic stuff that we all like to ask in situations like this.
Yeah, definitely great questions, Richard, and questions that we're looking to hopefully get an answer for soon. We haven't been able to speak with Memphis police or with any other agencies that are working this case at this time. I could only assume that maybe they'll gather here. They may choose another place, but as soon as we learn more details, we'll be sure to let you know. And we also just got information that that shelter in place near this area has been lifted. For now, we'll send things back over to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Thank you, Yvonne. So those are the two new developments literally in the last few seconds, is that we know Memphis police have, in fact, lifted the shelter-in-place order. Would expect that that would happen as soon as they apprehended their main suspect, and it did. It happened just a few short minutes after Ezekiel Kelly was arrested. And that also, Memphis police are telling us that they are planning to have a statement shortly, which we hope will answer some of the questions that we've been asking tonight about this shooting rampage that's been going on now for several hours around the city of Memphis. To give you a kind of a scope as far as where Ezekiel Kelly was arrested tonight, we keep saying around the area of Ivan and Hodge Road. This is basically the Whitehaven area. The major intersection that's closest to what you're looking at right here is Rains Road and Neely Road. So it's just literally a little northeast of that by just a few blocks of that intersection, but that gives you a better idea of the neighborhood in particular that's affected here is Whitehaven near Rains and Neely, and that's where we got the tweet not that long ago from Memphis police that those folks really needed to take these shelter-in-place orders seriously, and it wasn't long after that that we got the all clear from police that they had in fact arrested the suspect here. We don't know much about him. I do know that we're looking into a juvenile crime record and other past offenses. Hopefully we can elaborate on that more for you as soon as we're able to. But we know that Ezekiel, who goes by the nickname Zeke Kelly, created a lot of fear in this town for a significant amount of time as restaurants were placed in observing the shelter in place, as baseball games were basically canceled, as campuses were put on lockdown. You know, people say, oh, don't stoke fear. Well, look at what was happening tonight. This is not, we're not making this up. And there was absolutely precaution taking place and needed to be. people being escorted from their restaurants by managers to get to their car, make sure they're safe. And this is not the kind of way we shouldn't have to live like this. And yet, when your city is on basically a lockdown order or shelter-in-place order, that's what you do. You have to be responsible about it. We have to look out for each other, and just hope that police will be able to do their job quickly, and they were able to, realistically speaking, tonight. Once they narrowed down, and they seemed to do it pretty quickly. We had the name, or not the name, but we had the picture there, you see there, of who they were looking for pretty quickly tonight, and it didn't take much longer to get the name and be able to pass that along to you, including the car he was driving and the license tags and all that stuff. One of many disturbing aspects of this story, of course, is that initially these shootings were being posted by him on social media, on Facebook, we're told, and that is always troubling, that someone would feel not only to do what they did, but then to share it with the world on social media is absolutely troubling. But at least we know that he's no longer a threat, and we know that the shelter-in-place order is now lifted throughout the city of Memphis, and we also know that Memphis police expect that they'll have a statement for us shortly. The scene we keep showing you here is the live picture of Poplar and Auburndale, where we do know one victim was shot and killed, but you can see over the course of time here, since we've been talking to you, a lot of the police presence there has left as they have finished gathering clues about to what happened. So let's go back to Yvonne. Yvonne, I understand you have some new information for us.
Hey, Richard, we just have a better look for you, if you will. Again, we're at Lakeview and Sedgwick, not very far from Hodge and Ivan, where people were told just a short while ago to shelter in place. Like you've been mentioning, that shelter in place has been lifted, but this scene is extremely busy. We've seen multiple police officers and cops, undercover cops, as well as state troopers here as well. To give you an idea of just how secluded this area is, it really is just a two-lane highway. To the left of us, you can see Blue Light Lounge. It looks like that's a lounge back there to the left of us, but also you can see police officers and police activity just right here in the middle of this road. We do know that there is a neighborhood nearby that people can usually cut through this street and actually get home. They're not able to do that right now. Police are detouring traffic. They're asking people to turn around and find an alternate route as they continue their investigation. You can see right there, police and officer is just trying to stop this vehicle from coming into this scene. That person probably in this car has no idea exactly the magnitude of what has happened here, well, where police have actually captured this shooter. But again, they're working and they're asking people to please just stay out of this area. When you see a lot of police officers in an area like this, the best thing to do is just to turn around, because sometimes you just don't know until you know, right? So again, police are asking people to just stay clear of this area while they work. We've seen a lot of them over the last 20 to 25 minutes since we've been here on the scene. We actually have a lot of people behind us as well, just looking at all of this. I remember a man rolled by us a few minutes ago and just said, you know, have they caught him? Have they caught him? Because he was terrified. We're going to keep you updated as we learn more details. Richard, another thing you've been asking, and another thing I want to mention, we have yet to hear from police on this scene, but if and when we do, we will definitely tell you and bring you that live on air as well. Richard.
And Yvonne, you raise a good point. We don't know. Will they just issue a tweet and have a lot of the information there, as they sometimes do, or will they feel like they need to bring out Police Chief C.J. Davis? That could happen. That's happened in the past. Or we might hear from another one of the public information officers that are on staff. We don't know, but they are promising there will be a statement. So I am noticing a lot of squad cars are leaving the area now, Yvonne. Do you have any idea how close you are to where he was actually apprehended? Have you gotten any kind of perspective on that? I know you're getting low on battery power, so hopefully we won't lose you, but if you could answer that.
Hey, Richard, great questions. I'm not sure how close we actually are to Ivan and Hodge, where that is. We can look that up for you in just a couple of minutes, but definitely you're seeing it's just a lot of activity. You're seeing some police cars leave, but you're also seeing quite a few come as well. And hopefully this is an event that would cause or warrant people to, with the police department, to tell us what happened, what's going on, and to honestly put the public at ease. There have been several people who have just talked to us and just said that they're just scared. They hope that this is over. They want it to just be over. Richard.
Yeah, and thankfully we can tell them that as far as we know from police, it is over. They can at least be rest assured about that, but I'm sure they would like to know that a little more information about what exactly transpired, how did it get over, and what happened there. So, well, you stay on that scene there, Yvonne, and we're waiting to see maybe if there will be some kind of a police explanation or news conference perhaps there, because that is where Ezekiel Kelly was finally apprehended. But that just remains uncertain right now. All we know is the word from Memphis police as you see them put up some more crime scene tape there. So she must not be that far from where it all happened. That we're being promised that there will be a statement of some sort here pretty soon. So that's the situation in Whitehaven, where they've apprehended the suspect, and hopefully we'll be getting some more information about how they found him. Did he put up any resistance? Were there other issues in making the arrest? Was anyone else hurt that we haven't heard about yet? There was that long period of time after the scene at Poplar and Auburndale where we weren't hearing about any more shooting locations, which we were relieved to be able to bring that to you, but we don't know for a fact that that's the case. And there was just a long period where we knew they were looking for Ezekiel, and they did finally find him here in this Whitehaven neighborhood that seems to be fairly remote, fairly isolated than compared to other parts of Whitehaven, which are pretty busy and maybe more suburban looking than what you're seeing here. But nonetheless, this is a major route, as Yvonne was saying, to get to, that a lot of folks use to get to a neighborhood, and it looks like they are letting civilian cars through. So hopefully they are at least able to reach their homes, whereas that may not have been the case a short time ago as they were trying to finish all of us involved when you arrest someone who's a wanted suspect like this and considered armed and dangerous, as the suspect was. But want to just repeat where we are right now. We know that the shelter-in-place order, if you're just joining us, that shelter-in-place order has been lifted. We know that Memphis police are going to be making a statement for us here fairly shortly, and we know that that a number of victims were affected here, and tens of thousands of Memphians were affected here who probably had no idea all this was going on, only to learn that where they were happened to be getting a bite to eat or whatever activity they were involved in had to be put aside, and as there was a shelter-in-place order put in effect. And so it really did affect the entire city for a long period of time, and that too long for some, but it was the best the police could do at the time, because they were doing their best to try and find a guy who has struck fear in a lot of people tonight, and a lot of pieces that need to come together to help us figure it all out. That's going to happen in the days ahead, but right now, important news is that Zeke Kelly is caught and cuffed. Lakeview and Sedgwick is the intersection you're looking at right here, not far, according to Yvonne, from the actual place where the Memphis police said people needed to shelter in place at Ivan and Hodge Road. But as I was telling you, that is roughly near Neely and Rains Road in Whitehaven. That's roughly the spot where this is all going down and where they found their suspect. But the entire city was affected, not just this Whitehaven neighborhood, for a long period of time as police were trying to find the guy they were looking for. So we know, once again, of at least 4 locations. Major Rudolph said there may be 5. We'll have to wait to get that official statement from Memphis Police before we can try and put this all together. But we know about the AutoZone situation, the shooting there at the store that's in Raleigh on Jackson. We know a man was shot there. We know that there was a shooting. We don't know if there was any victims at Patterson and Southern, but it was concerning enough, obviously, that U of M decided to put the campus on lockdown at the time when that happened earlier this evening. We know that there was a shooting, a fatal shooting at in the 900 block of East Parkway South, which is in the Cooper Young area. Major Rudolph telling us on the air a short time ago that she believes that that was connected to this shooting rampage, but she didn't know 100% that that was the case. But we believe that is another location where this all went down. And then the way it happened, you know, the eyewitness account at Poplar and Auburndale was pretty gruesome, honestly, that there would be this car crash, someone acting like he was hurt just so someone would come approach him and that he would shoot that person for no apparent reason. We have another report that we're going to get now from, who's the reporter again? Oh, Jay, I'm sorry, Jay Shakur. Are you still in Raleigh, or have you moved locations?
I've moved locations. I'm currently at the University of Memphis, right off of Central Avenue. As you can see, traffic is picking up just a little bit here, as you can see. Just as police lifted that shelter-in-place order and the University of Memphis gave the all-clear, traffic has now began picking up. You see a few students walking, but at first when we initially arrived, it was an eerie scene. Not too many people walking, but I have seen students begin to walk across campus and some students get in their car and presumably go about their evening. But as I mentioned, it was an eerie scene initially when we first got here, not too much movement. But at the moment they listed that order, students have resumed activity.
Well, you would hope that they would be able to do that now that we know that we've gotten the all clear here and that the shelter-in-place order has been lifted. Did you hear whether or not there was actually a victim? Was anyone shot at the location, or was it just reports of shots fired there near the U of M campus? Have you been able to gather any information on that, Jay?
Haven't been able to gather any updated or new information about that. We do know that the University of Memphis was on lockdown due to preliminary reports of shots fired, but haven't gathered any information, can't confirm if anyone was injured or anything to that nature.
Okay, well, and that is possible that there were shots fired and maybe someone was shot at, but hopefully, and maybe there will be a couple of cases where no one was hit. Maybe that's one such case there. We have just received word from MATA that they have resumed service, bus service and trolley service in Memphis, so that is another sign that things are returning to normal. And as I mentioned, we also know that the shelter-in-place order has been lifted, the suspect has been caught. Things starting to hopefully calm down a little bit tonight as we get into the late hours here, as we've been covering this breaking news for you most of the evening. And we're waiting now for the biggest piece, is to find out what happened here with this guy, Zeke Kelly, who caused all this concern and this huge reaction from Memphis police, the effect that had on tens of thousands of people who had to shelter in place. It was like nothing I've ever seen in the time I've been here, and we want to know a lot of information about what's his story, how was he apprehended, was there any other victims that we haven't been told about? Lots of questions there. Do we have another reporter we're going to hear from? Or did I misunderstand our producer in the booth? Okay, I did misunderstand the producer in the booth. It won't be the first or last time on that fact either. All right, so if we can, I just want to tell you what you're looking at right here. This is Whitehaven, the neighborhood specifically around Lakeview and Sedgwick, and this is not that far away, perhaps just feet, given where the crime scene tape has been put up and where the cars are located there, not that far away from where Memphis police, after an intense manhunt that went for hours and after several shootings, several victims, where they finally were able to apprehend the suspect, 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly, who goes by the nickname Zeke. Lots of unanswered questions about the actual apprehension and the actual arrest. We hope to get to that shortly, but this is where it all ended. But there are many other scenes to show you too. For example, the scene in Raleigh, the AutoZone store there, where the suspect, we're told, walked into the store there on Jackson and shot a guy there. Whereas the scene at Poplar in Auburndale, more in Midtown Evergreen area, where there was a 4-car crash where the suspect pretended to be hurt or was acting like he was hurt, according to eyewitness accounts, and then shot a woman who came over to help him. There's the scene at Patterson and Southern. Our reporter Jay Shakur was near that location, near the U of M campus, where we understand there was a shooting, but from what we've been able to gather and from what he's been able to see so far, we're not sure that there was actually a victim there. And there's also the shooting that we're told Memphis police believe is connected to this, that occurred at the 900 block of East Parkway South, also in the Cooper Young area, where there was another victim for sure, and one that they believe was related to the shooting rampage that we've been telling you about tonight. So a lot of different locations, a lot of fluid details for us to try and keep up with and try to make sense of, and then try to also confirm as much as we can before we bring it to you. And that hasn't always been easy to do, but we've been very careful to refrain from, be very judicious about what we actually report to you based on what we're seeing and hearing on social media about this. We know that we're the information we've relayed to you tonight is as accurate as it can be based on what we're hearing from Memphis Police and our eyes and ears on the ground in the form of reporters and then the interviews that they have done with eyewitnesses. That's the best we can do, and hopefully we'll get some clarity, some clarification as this evening progresses. So we want to go to Regional 1 now. Hopefully Brad Broders is there for us, and Brad, I understand you're going to be able to give us some information, some details on any victims, I guess, who were taken to Regional 1 after being shot or caught up in this rampage?
Yeah, Richard, we're just wanting to spread out across Shelby County and the Memphis area. We're here at Regional 1 because obviously this is the region's trauma center. As you can see behind me, you can see that there's a lot of police activity here at Regional 1 next to the ambulance bay. This is on par with what you would see when a law enforcement officer is shot or injured. I've unfortunately, in my 7 years here, been on this street many times for such an incident. But with this active shooter now in custody, looking behind me right now here at Regional 1, this scene with the police activity behind me is on par with when a law enforcement officer is shot or injured. Obviously, we're trying to identify if any other injured people are treated here. I've been on scene here for less than 5 minutes, but as you can see, it's still a very active scene with a lot of law enforcement here at Regional 1 Medical Center. We're just arrived on scene. We're trying to gather more details from Regional 1, but we just want to make sure we're covered in all places across the Memphis area. Just arrived on scene here at Regional 1 Medical Center, but as you can see, a very active law enforcement presence behind me in wake of this active shooter situation earlier in the evening. That active shooter now in custody, according to Memphis police. Richard.
All right, very good. And Brad obviously only been there 5 minutes, as he says, so he's had not enough time, barely enough time to turn on the camera, let alone find out information on what, if any, victims may have been taken there. But obviously we'll let you have a break now, Brad, so you can try and ascertain that and see if that is in fact the case. And hopefully we'll be hearing some information about where victims may have been taken as well once Memphis police issue their statement, which we hope is coming at any moment, or at least that's how it was promised to us, and we do expect that to come pretty quickly. Okay, so let's see, we're approaching, I should say, the 10 o'clock hour. Before we restart here, I want to go to Yvonne one last time. Yvonne Thomas has been our reporter on the scene there at Lakeview and Sedgwick, I think you said, Yvonne, where Ezekiel Kelly was apprehended this evening and was taken away into custody.
Yes, yes, yes. A lot going on right now, Richard. As you can see, it looks like crews are getting ready to leave. Actually, large trucks, large tank-like trucks are leaving where we are right now at Lakeview and Sedgwick. Definitely still an extremely active scene here. Again, we are about 800 feet away from where that shelter-in-place order was a few minutes ago near Ivan and Hodge. About 800 feet is where we are from where that scene is. But again, look at all these tanks and these cars that are leaving, all of these vehicles. I want to make it very clear, we have not seen the shooter, but again, we were told he was apprehended nearby in this area. Again, Blue Light Lounge is right behind, it was right in front of us, really, to the left of us, and that area is looking to clear out as well. We're going to keep you updated as we learn more details. Again, no news right now from Memphis Police about whether or not they're going to speak to us here at this location, or if they're going to choose another place, or what that will be in the next few minutes or maybe few hours. We're going to keep you updated as we learn more. But again, very active here and a lot of moving parts, as you've been mentioning all night, Richard.
It was interesting to see so many armored vehicles leave there. That is something you don't see every day. But it does look like they are de-escalating quite a bit now, as you see a lot of them pull away from there. But yeah, Blue Light Lounge, that name has never been more appropriate than it was tonight, because there's been plenty of blue lights around the Blue Light Lounge tonight. Rudy Williams is joining me now as we approach the 10 o'clock hour. Rudy, it's been quite a night, as you know, and the kind that is hard to describe. As long as you and I have been in Memphis and covering news and crimes in Memphis, nothing quite like this before.
It is, Richard. You know, I've been sitting in the newsroom and making calls and making contacts with people in the community here. And just as it was a scary situation for everybody out in the streets, and I'll talk about those stories that I've heard, it was a frantic situation for us in the newsroom as well, especially with the week that we've had that you spoke about earlier with all the other incidents that have happened. And even for us in this business, sometimes it's very difficult to believe what we're hearing when we first hear it. And we are set out to do our jobs and bring you the latest information as our viewers. and our audience and keeping you safe. And that's what we've been on air doing all this evening, making sure that people around the city and the surrounding areas know exactly what's going on, because as this timeline has developed, businesses closed down. Businesses went on lockdown, looking after their patrons and the people that are there with their businesses. So it's very important that we make sure in these situations that we keep our audiences up to date and very well informed on what's happening. I spoke with several people that are members of my church. My church is in Midtown on Peabody, and they were in choir rehearsal. They went into lockdown there, sheltered in place. As many people who could, who live in the parish or the neighborhood, get home very quickly, get home safely to their families, they did so. That was the case, as you can imagine, around this city, because this is Wednesday night, after all, and Wednesday night is a night for prayer meeting, Bible study, and those sorts of things that happen at churches traditionally in our cities. So there were plenty of people that were out and about. A friend of mine had a mother who was in Midtown at the moment. She was actually in Overton Square at a restaurant, and immediately upon hearing the news got into her car and drove to South Memphis to get to safety. So lots of those stories that have happened during the course of this evening with this incident unfolding right in front of us, Richard.
Well, you bring up the church situation. Of course, Wednesday night is a big church night, and we were talking to Brittany Moncrief, our reporter, who was at a restaurant in Midtown, talking to a friend who was at a restaurant in East Memphis. It was a massive impact on tens of thousands of people. We'll never be able to get to all the stories. There will be so many, but it shows you the breadth of this particular crime and this rampage, and the toll it took on a lot of people who just had nothing other to do than go about the business of their day, and had everything interrupted by one person. Let's go to Brad Broders, who I understand we talked to him earlier. He was at the Regional 1 trying to get some information. I understand you have something for us, Brad?
Yeah, Richard, just in the last couple of minutes, just to hear, I've been here about 5 to 10 minutes, but what I've observed right now is you can see a lot of law enforcement guarding the ambulance bay. They are armed with longer weapons than typically you might see. A lot of police presence here at Regional 1. You can hear kind of off here on Jefferson, there has been some screaming, some emotion. I don't know if that by any chance is friends or loved ones of any of the victims affected in tonight's active shooter situation. That active shooter, again, is now in custody. However, you can hear kind of off a little bit away a lot of, there's been some screaming, some crying, and law enforcement remains very active on this scene. You can see behind me a lot of armed guard law enforcement here. Like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Richard, typically the law enforcement presence you see would be if a law enforcement member was injured or shot in the line of duty, but with what the city has been through tonight, this active law enforcement presence at Regional 1 is different than you might normally see for a shooting or shootings. But with this active shooter situation that has had Memphis on edge throughout the evening, active shooter now in custody, thankfully, but still you can see there's a lot of just the reinforcements here, precautions at Regional 1. We're not sure if any other victims will arrive here, if all the victims affected by tonight are here, waiting on those details. But Richard, that's the situation right now at Regional 1. But again, a heavy law enforcement presence. I can hear crying, emotion in the distance. So again, not sure if that's connected to anything related to the active shooter tonight, but still a very active scene and emotional and volatile at the same time, Richard.
All right, thank you, Brad. It is 10 o'clock in Memphis, Tennessee, and it has been quite a night here, folks. We're going to run it all down for you the best we can with live team coverage. And I'm going to bring in Rudy Williams, who's going to help me out here, because, Rudy, it's been quite a night as we try to digest for folks and piece together what's happened tonight. What we can tell people is that we had a shooting rampage that spread across the city that affected multiple victims and multiple locations.
That's right, Richard. All across the city, and it was astounding to see how many locations this suspect actually hit before we came to the end just moments ago with police apprehending the suspect. And it started, as we know, in Raleigh with the shooting at a AutoZone car parts store in that part of the city, and eventually moved south. You're looking at the accused shooter right now, Ezekiel Kelly. This gentleman is 19 years old, and people, as we have talked about all evening, witnessed a Facebook Live where he talked about and also shot someone on the Facebook Live. So that is very frightening to see something like that with your own eyes, to have that sort of thing happen in front of you. To also know that there is someone on the loose with a firearm and not knowing exactly where that person is, Richard.
You talked about the shooting location that we know about at the AutoZone Park that was broadcast live. I want to bring breaking news within breaking news, if there is such a thing, because we have just received confirmation that court records show that an arrest warrant was filed today for Ezekiel Kelly for murder, and it was unrelated to any of the issues related to this shooting rampage. So before any of this happened tonight, they wanted to arrest him for another murder. We don't know anything about that murder other than what I can tell you, that has happened and happened today. Ezekiel Kelly wanted for another murder unrelated to any of what's happened related to this rampage tonight. So Rudy, that gives us some context that Ezekiel was being pursued already, and then we had the shooting rampage that, as far as we can tell, started at the AutoZone Park, or AutoZone store on Jackson in Raleigh, and then there are three other locations that we've been able to surmise happened more close to each other, roughly in the Midtown area. There's the Patterson and Southern shooting, which was, we don't know that there was a victim there, but we know it was worrisome enough and enough shots were fired that the U of M campus went on lockdown tonight. We also know there was a shooting at Poplar and Auburndale where a female victim was killed. We also know that there was a shooting on East Parkway South near Cooper Young, which we are told the police believe was related. And then it all ended right here. The scene you're looking at, is this a live picture we're looking at? Yes, it is. This is in Whitehaven, in the area near Lakeview and Sedgwick, where we're told the suspect, Ezekiel Kelly, was finally apprehended after creating hours of terror in the city of Memphis tonight that led to multiple victims at multiple locations. Rudy, you know, the shelter in place, we talked about that in the 9 o'clock hour when you were joining me, about not only restaurants and a number of our coworkers and friends and people who were out and about and were told to shelter in place today, but churches that were also having prayer services and other things were also told the same thing. And it gives you an idea of the absolute magnitude that this event has had on the city of Memphis tonight. No doubt about it, Richard. And you know, we mentioned earlier, just a little while ago, that this whole thing started at an AutoZone, as far as we know, in Raleigh. But AutoZone also comes up again because tonight in downtown Memphis, outside of the areas that were affected by the suspect and shooting or other components of this whole thing, AutoZone Park had just begun a baseball game for the Redbirds, and they suspended the game tonight. They have since released a statement saying that they will resume that game in the bottom of the first inning tomorrow night at 5:05. But that just goes to show how many things across this city were affected by this incident tonight. As you look across social media and as you've talked to people across our city, and many of our other colleagues here in the station have talked to other people, there was a sense of concern, a sense of worry for their fellow Memphians, for family and for friends, because something like this could go so many ways. And as we monitored this situation, and just as police did, it was kind of hard to figure out where one lone actor would go. We're going to go back to the hospital right now, to Regional 1 in the medical district in downtown Memphis, where we find our Brad Broders with the latest information there. Brad?
Yeah, good evening, Rudy and Richard. We have an update which may be connected. This is unconfirmed right now, but we may have a potential family member of one of the victims in the shooting. I'm not going to name names, obviously, out of respect for the family as we're trying to confirm this, but I'm hearing from a family member on social media saying that, according to a friend or family member, that a person is out of surgery but not out of the woods as the bullet hit his intestines. He is in recovery. and they will have to operate again in a couple of days. Thanking God as our comforter. He is in charge, and we are faithful to him. This possibly is a family member connected to potentially one of the victims tonight in this active shooting situation. I've been on the scene for about 10 minutes working to get any confirmation of how many victims have been treated here at Regional 1. But as I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, a very heavy law enforcement presence here outside the ambulance bay at Regional 1 Medical Center, which is the area's leading trauma facility. We've also noticed that law enforcement has rifles out outside of the ambulance bay. That is abnormal for this kind of situation, even when a law enforcement member is hit or injured in the line of duty. I've never seen such a situation where law enforcement is guarding the ambulance bay with rifles. So that is a unique observation that I've noticed in the last couple of minutes being here at Regional 1. Just a difficult night for the city of Memphis after a very difficult week earlier with the Eliza Fletcher case that we continue to follow as well, Richard and Rudy. But we believe there may be some family members already weighing in on social media, potentially connected to this. Again, we are working to confirm with Regional 1 how many victims have been taken here and are currently being treated here tonight. As soon as we know that information, we will bring that. But again, our teams are covered across the Memphis area as we continue to follow this very fluid situation following a night of an active shooter across the Memphis area. Again, that active shooter in custody, according to Memphis police. Live at Regional 1, I'm Brad Broders.
All right, thank you, Brad. As you mentioned, a tough week for this city. Getting a text from a friend in St. Louis, awful week for Memphis. A text from my daughter in Denver, what's going on in Memphis? And that's what happens when you have these kinds of just terrifying random crimes that everyone can relate to, like what if that were me? And we can see ourselves in that situation and rightfully have concern. But the good news here is Memphis police did their best, and they worked hard and they worked fast, and they caught this guy relatively quickly, not before he did some significant damage to families, loss of life, loss of property, and all of the above. During the course of this evening before he was caught. But our Yvonne Thomas is at that location in Whitehaven where he was finally apprehended. Ezekiel Kelly, Yvonne, we're learning, had an arrest warrant for murder one earlier today before any of this started.
A lot of new information coming in, Richard. Thank you for sharing that. The scene here has changed quite a bit from what we were seeing and looking at earlier this evening, maybe about 20 to 30 minutes ago. Definitely 10 minutes ago, we saw a lot of armored vehicle, a lot of tanks, it looked like, coming out of this area, and a lot of police cars have now left. There are still some police cars here, still a few police officers as well, and they've resecured that perimeter around this area. Again, this is Lakeview and Sedgwick. Now, what I can tell you is that there are people here at the scene. There have been people at the scene. We spoke with a gentleman named Arturo who was actually here at this scene, but he was actually at that AutoZone as well and just described what he saw at that location. He says he saw someone get shot, and he's hoping and praying that that person is okay. But he was there, he says, with his church group, and that they were doing some ministry in that area, but that also several kids, he says, were nearby. But he also mentioned and went on to say about just how devastating this week has been. It's been a very, very heavy week for many families here in the city of Memphis and for the world who is watching Memphis this week for a lot of different things. This, unfortunately, is another incident that people are looking for and looking for new information. We are still waiting to see if Memphis police will give us an update live on camera, on television, to see exactly what happened, what caused all of this, what was the motive behind all of this. The good news tonight, though, is that it looks like it all is over. Richard.
Well, let me ask you, Yvonne, I see that there's the 1 or 2 squad cars remaining. Have they told you why they're sticking around, or what's their, how long they plan to be there tonight? Any information about where they're going from here? Because it's looking less and less likely that they're going to be making a statement from that location as people keep pulling out.
Any of that information to us, but definitely they are still securing this perimeter. They have us secured right here at Sedgwick and Lakeview, but they also have maybe a few hundred feet behind us. There's caution tape and crime scene tape there as well. You can see the blue light lounge to the left of us. There's actually crime scene tape back there also as well to the right of that building also. We're going to keep you updated as long as they are here. We're going to keep our eyes and our ears open as soon as we hear any updates from Memphis Police. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Yvonne. And Rudy, that's what we're waiting for, is this some kind of statement, some kind of information from MPD, which they said was going to be forthcoming shortly. You know, we got to give them a break here. They've got a lot of information, it sounds like, to try and assemble, given the number of locations that we're talking about and victims too. But that really will go a long way toward answering questions that not just reporters have, but viewers too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Richard. And we've got to think about a police force that is heavily taxed tonight at this time, because we are still not up to complement with our police department at this point in time. So covering such a large area today, that was a lot of ground to cover for these officers tonight, and a lot of information to digest, and investigation still going on as we look at this crime scene live right now. This is Poplar and Evergreen. This is one of the areas that was shut down during the search, during the quest to find the shooter this afternoon. And once again, his name is Ezekiel Kelly. He's 19 years old, and as Richard said earlier, he goes by the nickname of Zeke. And he obviously has a record here and is accused of murder just today. So officers have quite a bit on their hands here. That shot that Yvonne was showing just a little while ago, and her location right now is north of Rains Road. And Hodge runs north off Rains Road, is what I meant to say there. And it then turns into, it looks like Lakeview, if I'm correct, and runs on up to Winchester, or to Graves Road, rather. Winchester Road, excuse me. And that club is right there, that lounge is right there in that area, and around there it's very residential. So we've seen this evening that neighborhoods have been affected, business districts have been affected, interstates have been affected tonight by this one lone shooter who went on this rampage across the city this evening, terrorizing the residents of this city. But it's very clear, as we heard Yvonne say earlier, that there was huge concern for people, for life here in the Memphis area, for all the things that have happened, that have been in the news locally and nationally this week. We also see the goodness of people. And that definitely came out tonight as everyone tried to figure out exactly what was happening once again in the city of Memphis, but how could each one of us lend a hand in this situation?
Yeah, and if we could do more than that, we would. But it's the best we can do is help our fellow man and woman and be good Samaritans, good citizens, and help one another out, and try to remember that a vast majority of us are from that frame of mind. We're not. We're looking out for each other. We care about each other. Memphians are known for that, and it's just hard to accept that we've had to deal with what we've had to deal with this week, for sure, and the impact it's had. And you went through it very well. All the different businesses, roadways, you name it. It's been substantial. You had the city's bus service shut down today. MATA had to suspend service. You mentioned AutoZone Park. Right in the middle of a baseball game. It doesn't get any more Americana than that, than a AAA Redbirds game downtown, and that having to be suspended and I guess postponed now until tomorrow, when they hope to pick up play again. So just a number of, and I don't want to leave out the U of M campus, also concerned enough that they had to go on lockdown. So just, you're talking about some major institutions, major landmarks in this city, all impacted in a very short period of time by just one guy with a gun who was intent on causing chaos, and apparently had no remorse about destroying lives if he was already wanted for murder one before any of this started tonight. Okay, let's go back to Brad Broders at Regional 1. Any new information for us, Brad?
Richard, we're still kind of waiting on information from Regional 1 in terms of how many victims have been treated, but I just wanted to, you've been doing such a great job, I just wanted to kind of recap a lot of the comments that I'm seeing coming in on Twitter in the last hour. A lot of tweets coming in from City Council members of Memphis City Council. The Memphis Office of Emergency Management tweeting just a few minutes ago, "Our thoughts and prayers are with all those affected by tonight's tragic events." The former Memphis Shelby County School Superintendent Dorsey Hobson tweeting, "Thank you for your hard work over the last few days, Memphis Police. We appreciate your courage and hard work every day, but especially over the last week." And to show you how much statewide and national attention this is getting, Richard, Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee tweeting, "My team and I are monitoring the situation in Memphis closely and urge those in the area to follow direction from the Memphis Police Department and other local officials. We are praying for Memphis and all of those affected tonight." And Richard, I just want to highlight what I've already seeing as a hashtag, and I don't think this is going to be the last, from the Memphis Office of Emergency Management tweeting 901 strong. I've seen so many tweets in the last hour from so many Memphians, like Rebecca Butcher. She's a native. She loves her. Our news director, a Memphis native, loves this city. So many people love this city, and this week has really hit us hard. It's hit those who have come to this city and love it, those who are lived here all their lives. Everyone's been impacted by this in some way across the board. I'm seeing on social media tonight. So while there's sadness and frustration, there's also resolve that these two events in the last week are not what Memphis is about, and that is strongly being encouraged on social media tonight, Richard.
Yeah, maybe a more appropriate hashtag tonight would be 901 hurting, because we are. But you're right, we love this city and we want better for it. You expect that it's going to be some meetings. There may be a protest or two, some more conversation, but it always amazes me. We talk and talk and talk, but there's not usually a lot of serious conversation about what we really need to do to address some of the root causes of the city's crime problem. But no doubt we will cover those meetings and cover those candlelight vigils, and it will go on. Unfortunately, I hate to be so cynical about it, but I've been here since 1994 and I've seen what I've seen. Rudy, let's bring you into this. The MPD statement that we're waiting for, typically what happens with this is I guess it's best to say it's not typical, because lately we don't know if they're going to do something, release the information on Facebook. Are they going to put it out through some other social media site? Are they going to have a news we don't ever really know which approach they're going to take. All we know is that they've promised to have some kind of statement that's going to give us some answers to what happened.
Yeah, that's right, Richard. And it oftentimes depends upon where they are in that investigation and how many other people or components or factors go into the work that they're doing at that point in time. We know that we have been watching a lone, or believe that we've been watching a lone shooter all this afternoon, but there could be other people involved somehow or another. And that's information that we'll find out in the coming days. And oftentimes as these things become so big, as we unfortunately saw with the Eliza Fletcher situation, there were questions and there were situations that needed to be vetted and looked into as well. So that can oftentimes affect what we get, how they disseminate that information, and oftentimes we feel like it's not soon enough for us, but for the safety or for the good of all, we like to think that law enforcement knows exactly what they're doing in that case for us all. They released information to us in various ways this afternoon or this evening as they went on the search for this gunman. We had conversations with MPD. We watched their social media as well. The biggest part of all of this was to make sure that Memphians, residents of Memphis, were safe and to clear the streets, because it was not known where this person might strike next, and puts everybody in a very, very vulnerable situation when you have that sort of thing happening. People in restaurants, people in stores, people going about their lives as we often do. And when this started this afternoon, this was around the rush hour period of time where people are leaving school, rehearsals, leaving work. And as we've talked about just a moment ago, going to church. That's a traditional thing that happens here in the South, and especially here in Memphis, Tennessee. So this is something that took all of us off guard, as it did the general population of the area. When I heard the news here in the newsroom, we often hear about shootings, but not on such a large scale as this. So we take those things and that information that we get into the newsroom with a grain of salt until we learn more is involved. But as we started to get more information in here, we had to hit the ground to figure out exactly what was going on and inform our audiences, people who are watching right now, who may just even be turning on the television to find out what was happening here in Memphis, Tennessee. You're looking right now at a picture of Ezekiel Kelly. He's 19 years old. He is the accused shooter in tonight's spree that we have been following all evening long, not long after we got off of air for our late afternoon or late evening newscast at 6:30. And Richard, you were right back on air with information of this crime that was happening here in the Memphis area. Several areas affected. We know that this started at an AutoZone store in Raleigh, where a shooting took place there on Jackson Avenue in the 4011 Jackson Avenue block. We saw pictures there earlier. Our Jay Shakur was there. I did give a call to the store there, and people were in the store, but they had closed the store by then, of course, since something had happened there, such a crime had happened there. From there, we also saw and got reports of the shootings and incidents that were possibly related to that situation in other parts of the city. So you think about the area of Raleigh, and you think about the area that we're looking at right now, where our crews are, where police say they apprehended Ezekiel Kelly this evening. That's quite a span of area throughout the city. And not knowing exactly which direction that shooter would go in would be something that would make anyone afraid and want to get home and get off the streets and get out of reach of something like this, Richard.
Absolutely. I have to say that when you look at the breadth of the different, the locations and how many, square miles, acres we're talking about here, it's sure there were several parts of town that maybe weren't directly affected, but when you basically stretch from AutoZone Park, where you can't even have a baseball game go on without having to be suspended for sheltering in place, as far east as 240 and Poplar, and then everything in between, it gives you an idea of just how much of an impact all of this had here tonight. We're anxiously waiting for word from the MPD about what Memphis police have learned about this, what they can share about it. We're getting lots of reaction on social media, people wanting to hold on to hope that we've got to rally here. We've got to make sure that we look out for those victims and their families that are having a very difficult night, because that's what matters most right now, for sure. There are larger questions that will no doubt be asked. Whether they'll be answered, I don't know. But the problem is that the focus now is on the situation with the families, reaching out to them, helping them, of course, thanking our police department for their hard work, and then figuring out what exactly was the situation with the main suspect tonight, Ezekiel Kelly, who is now in police custody after a very, very long night for Memphis police. Rudy mentioning that Memphis police, not even a full complement at this point, a little less than 2,000 officers, I believe is the last number I had, and they would like to be closer to 2,500 officers to have what they feel they need to start to make an impact on crime. And Yvonne, the 19 years old is the age of Ezekiel Kelly. A lot of the comments made by Police Chief C.J. Davis over recent months since she took the helm was just noticing the juvenile crime problem in particular has really skyrocketed, and not just under 18, but really that soft spot between 16, 17, and 24 years old. That is really where, as she likes to say, 20% of the people committing 80% of the crimes. That's the age group, and this suspect tonight, Ezekiel Kelly, falls right in the middle.
There, Richard, and people are asking the question as we watch all of these things happen. Where are we? Where are we as a society right now as we watch all of these crimes play out in front of us? As we continue to look at these live scenes right now, we've got Yvonne Thomas, who is down in Whitehaven right now. She's at that scene near Lakeview Road in Sedgwick. Yvonne?
Hey, Rudy. Hey, guys. Things have changed quite a bit. Definitely not the same kind of scene that we were witnessing maybe 30, 45 minutes to an hour ago, where there were a lot of officers, a lot of different departments, from Memphis police to state troopers, even unmarked cars and vehicles were here. Right now, the only MPD vehicle that we can see is just this one right in front of us, with a couple of officers here as well. We did try to speak to them, and they were kind enough to tell us that they don't know how long that they're going to be here at this time. We've also been reaching reaching out to the PIOs, the spokespersons or spokespeople with Memphis Police to see if they can give us an update on what has happened here tonight, but also if we're going to hear or get a statement from Memphis Police as well about all of the events that have unfolded this evening, not just this location, but the others across the area as well. As of right now, I haven't heard anything myself about whether or not there will be a press conference or a briefing or anything like that. But definitely the scene has calmed down drastically from where this person was apprehended here at this scene. Back to you.
All right, Yvonne, thank you. Talk about when you first got here. I mean, I wondered if you were able to tally how many law enforcement agencies were there. I know we saw some Tennessee state troopers pull out of there. There were those armored cars, 2 of them, the vehicles that pulled out as you were going live. Have you seen Shelby County Sheriff's Office, any federal agency of any kind?
We did not. We did not. We only saw those state troopers from our vantage point. And remember, this is quite a large scene. Police have told us that, you know, the suspect was apprehended further on down this road. We're about 800 feet from where Ivan and Hodge Road, that intersection is, that was on lockdown or people were asked to stay inside of their homes. That's about 800 feet away from here. But we, again, we saw Memphis police officers. We saw state troopers as well. No word on ATF or anything of those other agencies that were here, but they could have been, and that maybe from our vantage point, we just didn't see them. But definitely that biggest shocker for us here on scene was seeing those armored trucks leave. There were at least 2, maybe 3 of those that left maybe about 30 minutes ago. And again, not much is here left at this crime scene as we resume.
Okay, well, as you stay there, hopefully you'll be able to get a little more information pieced together there, but it looks like things are winding down there pretty quickly, especially compared to the presence that was there earlier this evening when we went live to you and knew that that's where the focus of the investigation was and where the focus of the manhunt was more accurately in trying to find the Ezekiel Kelly, the suspect here, who, as we have told you many times, but just want to reiterate, he is in custody, he has been caught, and he is no longer posing a threat to the city. The shelter in place lifted, bus service resumed, things hopefully returning to some sense of normal. Rudy, what are you hearing as we move here to 10:30?
Yeah, Richard, I wanted to talk with Yvonne if she's still there, because she spoke a little while ago about a gentleman who drove up and was asking if Ezekiel Kelly or the suspect had been caught yet. But I was just trying to get a feel of what the rest of the community and the nearby neighborhoods, what those people were saying, or what their reactions were to this evening.
Hey, Rudy, I can still hear you. I hope you guys can hear me as well. Definitely, we had a crowd out here, not just of Memphis police officers or investigators, but the neighborhood came out to just wanted to see what was going on. You could kind of see in the video, if you were with us with our live continuing coverage, that there were vehicles trying to get actually past this crime scene because people live nearby in this area. One gentleman actually stopped Clayton Collier and I, who's with me. He's been behind the camera all night, but stopped us and just said, hey, has this guy been caught? Has he been caught? Because I'm terrified. I've been terrified. And at that point, we were just getting confirmation that, yes, he was in custody. But definitely the community has just been terrified about what exactly has happened here. We actually spoke to another gentleman on the scene and got an interview with him who was actually at this scene, but also at AutoZone as well, who talked about that scene. He was there with members of his church where he says that a person was shot at that AutoZone. And so he was just terrified. He says he's praying for the city, and because it's just been a hard and heavy week for many of us as the world is watching Memphis and all the events that have unfolded throughout this week. We're going to keep you updated again, you know, definitely not the same scene here at Lakeview and Sedgwick that we did have maybe about 30 minutes ago.
Thank you, Yvonne. And as we watch this scene right now and as this news spreads across the city and even across the country on national news outlets right now, we do want to remind everybody that that shelter in place warning has been lifted because that suspect has been taken into custody by police. We're waiting to hear more from them on the situation. We're also standing by, as I understand, at some time for a word from the mayor of the city of Memphis, Mayor Jim Strickland. So that is to come, as I'm being told as well. But as we look at the situation, and we look at it in chronology of what happened during this week with the unfortunate kidnapping and murder of Eliza Fletcher and other things that have come before then. In our place, in our space, as we come in and do our jobs during the day, we can never tell exactly what will happen, just as you cannot tell out there at home exactly what you'll be watching and what you'll be listening to. So, Richard, I know for you, and getting off the air right at 6:30 and turning around and going right back on with this, this definitely provided a whole nother scenario, a whole nother experience for you.
Absolutely, and you know, you hear about the impact it's having, and that is what we define as breaking news. So you go on the air and you try to inform people the best you can on what you know. And I apologize if some of my tap dancing has been a little rough, but I tell you, it's just important that we try and stay on it, because as soon as we sign off, that's when another detail is going to come in that we need to tell you about. So rather than not interrupt, back and forth, we know when we're in a situation where continuous coverage is called for, and that's what we've been doing tonight. I do understand that we may not have heard from Memphis Police yet, but we are hearing from some elected officials, some other notable newsmakers who have posted their comments about what's going on. We have Senator Marsha Blackburn, who said, my team and I are aware of the situation unfolding across Memphis. Please stay vigilant and follow the guidance of local officials. As she calls out Memphis Police Department, she says, we are praying for all of those impacted. And we also heard from State Senator Ramesh Akbari, my Lord, it's over. Memphis, our city. We are tired. We are exhausted. Amen, Senator. There has been so much loss, too many families grieving. There is so much good in the city that's being overshadowed by evil, so much light being threatened by darkness. Wow, I love that one. Representative Tory Harris, Memphis, while Ezekiel Kelly has been arrested, the tragedy of the victims, Memphis residents, law enforcement establishments, and businesses that were directly or indirectly affected will have a lasting impact from today's events. Any others? Yes, the Memphis Office of Emergency Management. You heard Brad Broders mention this comment earlier. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those affected by tonight's tragic events. Hashtag 901 strong. And here we have Mark Billingsley, County Commissioner from Germantown area. Pray for Memphis and our surrounding community. We are all devastated by the loss of lives due to crippling crime and our own safety and well-being. Mark Billingsley, a commissioner who, Rudy, understands that no matter where you live in the city, whether it's a suburban area or the city itself, we are all affected by it. You can't run away from it. You can't feel any kind of illusion of safety, because that's just not the case. I understand you have some more comments to share with us.
Yeah, but I want to add to that as I read these. This sort of thing is happening across the country, and oftentimes people look at Memphis, Tennessee as all these things happen back to back, it seems, but we aren't the only city experiencing this. Atlanta is experiencing things of the same nature. Chicago, Illinois, experiencing the same sorts of things, and possibly it's because of the size of our city, and oftentimes people forget about Memphis, Tennessee until there's something huge that makes the national headlines to remind everybody that we are here. But as Senator Ramesh Akbari so eloquently said in her social media post, there are so many wonderful things that happen here in this city that are often overshadowed by crimes like this and what we've seen earlier this week. Let's get to the rest of those social media posts from other notables. Dorsey Hobson, the second, who is the former superintendent, 2 times back of Shelby County Schools. He says, thank you for your hard work over the last few days at Memphis Police Department. We appreciate your courage and hard work every day, but especially over the last week. And also Senator Bill Haggerty. He says, my team and I are monitoring the situation in Memphis closely and urge those in the area to follow direction from Memphis Police Department and other local officials. We're praying for Memphis and all those affected tonight. And Councilman Chase Carlisle releasing a statement, a very lengthy statement. He said, but my statement on tonight's tragic events, these tragedies must stop. He's also saying that he's praying for everybody affected by tonight's senseless violence. He says he's praying for Memphis. I understand it feels like so much violence and evil to experience in such a short time. We are so much more than this. I've seen many posts on social of people saying they're out or packing my bags. I'll never tell anyone how to feel, but I want you to stay. He said, I want you to stay and I want you to fight. Fight for the Memphis you believe in, the Memphis we want to be. I will be there with you. I love my city. I won't give up on it. and I hope you won't either. Thank you to MPD again for their heroic work and willingness to put themselves in harm's way for us. As leaders, we must and will do more. So there you have it, several postings, several social media postings from elected officials here in the city, and there are more to come as everyone has been watching this situation unfold this evening on the streets, literally on the streets of Memphis, Tennessee tonight. As I said before, we are waiting to get a word from the mayor of the city very shortly. I have not heard if we will hear anything from Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris this evening, but I do know that we are on tap to get a word from Mayor Jim Strickland at some point this evening as well. Richard?
Yeah, and I'm sure we will hear from him. I'm sure that even if it's not a part of the initial statement, that we will hear from Police Chief Davis, if not tonight, tomorrow. I'm sure there are a number of people we'll hear from the Memphis Shelby County Crime Commission. There's a lot of different elements and tentacles to this that we're going to be exploring in the days and probably weeks ahead. But nonetheless, many of the comments that we're getting from newsmakers, elected officials, what have you, trying to encourage us to keep hope alive, so to speak, and let's not let this get us too down, but realizing that we're clearly not doing what we need to be doing, and some issues that we aren't addressing probably need to be able to address them and not just have another city council person having a town hall meeting and nothing happens. That, I think, is that exasperation is what might have some people saying, I'm down, I'm packing my bags, I'm out of here. But the bottom line is you can't run away from it, and you got to deal with it, and that's what needs to happen. Hopefully Mayor Strickland will maybe initiate that conversation in a different way when we hear from him. We're waiting, folks. If you're wondering why we're still on the air here, we are hoping that we're going to get that statement from the Memphis police that they said they were going to make tonight, trying to give some explanation on how the events unfolded, the timeline, who was hurt, where exactly did things happen. Those are all pieces that we're trying to put together based on what we're seeing and hearing from eyewitnesses and our reporters on the ground, but we want to have more specific information to bring to you. And then, of course, the actual and eventual apprehension of Zeke Kelly, which was one of the best things I've been able to report out to the viewing public in quite some time, is to let them know that, yes, the person who was creating this terror on the streets was apprehended, and this immediate threat was no longer. So that's where it stands right now. And we, while we have his picture on the screen, I just think it's certainly important to point out again, we've brought it to you at the top of the hour, but we've just learned in that period of time that a arrest warrant was issued for this man earlier today, before the shooting rampage, for another murder. And it just happened, the arrest warrant anyway, just happened today. We don't know much, if anything, about the crime itself, but it's certainly pertinent and relevant to everything else that unfolded since.
I believe this could have been why we saw such reckless abandon with the situation. We can't speculate, but as we look at all of this evening, as we wait for a word from MPD and wait to find out, hopefully, how few casualties or injuries there were from the situation, Memphis needs people who want to be here to help to fight to move Memphis forward. Bottom line. As a resident of Memphis, Tennessee, who not only works here, I have witnessed in people who are from Memphis, Tennessee, people who live here, people who work here and toil every day. They are fighters and they stand up for their city, and they are proud and they ride for their city. And if someone doesn't want to be here, then perhaps they don't need to be here. That's as frank as I'll get about that. But there are so many great people, so many great things here in the city to be involved in, and to be a part of the solution and make it better is the better side of the line, I believe.
Couldn't agree more with you, my friend. And it's just the tendency, I think, is to maybe accept that this is maybe just part of our poverty rate, and we're just going to have more violent crime than a lot of cities, and proportionately we do. Yes, you're right. A lot of cities battling this, and there's been an uptick all over the country, but we do have more than our fair share, and there are a lot of factors that need to be looked at. And I would hope that maybe a week like this, if there's one positive thing that can come from it, is to say, maybe we have become a little too accepting of the situation and need to reevaluate, push the envelope a little bit, look around corners we haven't looked at before to address in a more concrete way things that are actually going to make a dent rather than what we have been seeing, and that is a concerning rise, especially when it comes to juvenile crime.
Absolutely, and there's not one solution. There's not one quick fix to all of this, and it won't be quick. This has happened over a long period of time. So it's not something that a magic wand can be waved at to make go away.
Not at all, and we're seeing that it's the effect that that's having on the lives and the hurt that it's causing, and you would hope that that is enough to have people start to take an examination of looking in other directions, looking at places we haven't, under different rocks, trying to come to some kind of just trying something new. And maybe we saw some evidence of that, Rudy, with this last election. Clearly, voters are tired of what the standard that was in place, particularly at the juvenile court office and also with the district attorney's office. We are going to be trying some things new. That's certainly going to happen here in the weeks and months ahead with new people in both positions.
You're absolutely right, Richard. It's inevitable. We will see something happen. How different and what impact it will make remains to be seen. But we are here to do it, and the people have spoken. So we move forward from here. I'm hearing in my ear now that it has been confirmed that we will hear a statement in a press conference. And I'm not quite sure if that's from, was that confirmation from the mayor or from the police department? I was asking if the information or the press conference that we'll be hearing tonight, will that be from the police department or will that be from the mayor's office? Okay, it's unclear at this moment in time, but there will be more information this evening. But we will continue to get more information going into tomorrow. You can rest assured that will happen. If we are not on air when that information comes out, we're going to hang on here as long as we can. You can always stay up to date at abc24.com and on our app. It's free in the Google and the Apple Store. And I've just been informed that there will be a press conference from police this evening.
But we don't have a time, do we? Because I was really kind of hoping that by 11 o'clock we could wrap things up here. But no, I fully expect that they, are working diligently to make that happen. But as I alluded to earlier, I also know from the hard work that they do that they don't want to have to correct anything. They want to make sure they get it right when they issue it. And so there's a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot in a situation like this when you have multiple scenes, multiple victims, and a troubled, to say the least, suspect with a prior record that we understand does extend to juvenile court as well. So those are all things that they know they're going to be asked, and they want to have the answers. So that's probably what's delaying this and why we're having to wait just a little bit longer. But I imagine they're working very hard to make sure it happens sooner rather than later. Yeah, and sooner than later, this ordeal came to an end, and that's what we were hoping for. You never know how long something like this will last, and fortunately for all involved, this has come to a close sooner than later. But you mentioned something just a moment ago too, Richard. You used the word troubled in describing this suspect, and especially with a record now, a clear record that goes back to juvenile court. If we're dealing with someone of this age, 19 years old, holding a city hostage, driving around with a gun without care of harming people. And if all accounts and reports that we've heard that could be connected to this entire situation, blatantly and intentionally harming others, there are issues that need to be addressed. And it is not that quick fix as we talked about, and addressing those issues and looking into where do we start? Where do we attack the issues? How do we approach those issues? Who do we get involved in doing this? And I'd say everybody within this community is vitally important in moving things forward. Yes, including the faith community, which I know has started to really respond to a couple of more high-profile crimes that have happened this year, joining forces, saying maybe we need to be more involved than we have been in our community and trying to do kind of a groundswell effort to make it more grassroots in how we're going to address this. Because honestly, in defense of police, they can't, we can have the 2,500 officers, and I'm sure that will help some because you'll have more officers that can catch bad guys that run a red light, and then maybe they've got a warrant out for their arrest, and that's kind of the thinking behind it. But the bottom line is they can't be everywhere. There's no way they could have prevented what happened today. So there's only so much they can do. And as Police Chief Davis often says when she does get in front of the cameras is that, this is going to take a community effort. It's just that simple. And it's going to take more than just a couple of nonprofits, a couple of town hall meetings, and them adding 200 or 300 officers to seriously deal with this in a serious way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're going to go back out to our Rebecca Butcher now, who has been on a couple of scenes this evening and following the story for us. A native Memphian who I'm sure is as concerned about all of this as we have been this evening. So Rebecca, what do you have new for us now?
Yeah, well, Rudy, I can say we did just before you took us, we did see the Regional Forensic Center van leave the scene. We also have seen just moments ago the medical examiner's van leave the scene as well. Now, they were here for a bit of time. Like we reported earlier, a woman was shot and killed. That's confirmed by authorities in this area. We're in the Midtown area, near just at the intersection of Poplar and Arbondale. It's a heavy scene, of course. Memphis is definitely hurting. Emotions are high in this community. I was the first media member here on the scene, and I did speak with, an eyewitness like we've told you. He tells me he did witness this woman get shot. From what he could tell, that victim was wearing what looked like medical scrubs or was a medical professional. So it's everyday people who are victims of these tough crimes, like we've reported so many times ourselves. And of course, being from Memphis, Rudy, you've been in Memphis so long as well. It's heartbreaking to see us come to a point where people who have always felt safe or have never really had to dart their eyes back and forth or constantly look over their back like so many of us media members have done with the Eliza Fletcher case in that area as investigators work to find her remains. It's devastating to hear from people that they no longer feel as safe as they did. And we've got to get to that point where, we got to get Memphis back. I was speaking with a former county commissioner at the press conference that was held with C.J. Davis as well. Looks like they're getting ready to take this. You're fine. We're just working with police here, making sure we don't get in their way. Looks like they're wrapping up this scene, taking down that crime tape that they put up, when I first got here at this intersection. But like you guys have been saying, police are working hard, and we've heard comments from C.J. Davis on the Fletcher case and crime as well, and she's relatively new in her position, and I think what Memphis could really benefit from is not just conversations, but plans that include actual real people. We're doing these stories every day, and the question that I usually end up asking is, well, what do you think is the solution? Of course, that's a multi-layered, multifaceted question. It's a big question, but collecting those different possible solutions and how everyday people can kind of inspire one another to be part of the solution and act and vote and get those elected leaders who are passionate about what they're passionate about, saving lives, keeping Memphis safe, making it a livable, sustainable area like South Memphis, other areas that are seeing abandoned, vacant homes that have become, a haven for more crime, a haven for suspected murderers. So it's a big issue that we've dealt with, but I think once we can kind of get our heart checked and kind of get back to, I guess, the will of Memphis, as a former county commissioner was telling me recently this week, I think we can do it.
Rebecca, you said a heart check there, and you know, when this all broke this afternoon, for even me, I had to take a moment and pull myself together, because it's almost as if you're saying, you know, what gives? You know, what else? What next can happen? But this is a city where great things can happen. You're standing in the middle of a very residential area right now, and you got a chance to see a lot of those residents come out out of concern for each other and to see what was going on. Do you feel a sense of relief in that area at this time, even with the unfortunate shooting death of that one person?
Yeah, you know, I can't see people out here. It's still eerie out here. First got here, and just to recap a little bit, because that was in another show on our sister station, CW, where we went over those details. Like that witness I was telling you about who saw the shooting, he said that he saw the aftermath of a 4-vehicle crash, and he said that he saw what police have described as the suspect. He described a white shirt, African-American male, younger, come out of the car, quote unquote, acting like he was hurt, going up to a vehicle. He said that a woman was in her car with what appeared to be her children. She said, "No, you're not hurt, you have a gun." Went to another car, tried the same thing. It appeared to him, this woman who was in scrubs, who has lost her life here tonight in the Midtown area. He said that this witness told me that he pulled her out and shot her. So, yeah, these are stories that are hard. And as far as your question of relief, when everything was going on, a lot of people were coming out here, and it was really becoming very apparent of how big this was, this shooting spree. Told them to come to, you know, not be out here if they didn't have to be out here and they weren't working the scene, but go inside, stay safe. So I'm sure that they are relieved in their homes, but no one's out here. Rudy.
Eerie scene still, Rebecca. I want to share right now, just moments ago, I received a communication from Shelby County Commissioner Eddie Jones, and he wants to commend the Memphis Police Department, as he says, on their unwavering honor to protect and serve all of its citizens. He says the violence we have seen over this past week has shown our resilience and unity as a city and as a community. He goes on to say, this tragic trilogy ended close to where my mom lives. Wow. He says, thank you, men and women in blue. My heartfelt condolences go out to the families that have been impacted by this violence. He ends that by saying, love Memphis. He's now the probate court clerk. That's Eddie S. Jones, who served on the county commission before this and has always been very active here in this community, a Memphian who truly loves this city, as you've heard from other elected officials and other people in our community tonight. So you can see the breadth and the spans that this ordeal has taken all across the city and on so many people and so many homes tonight, Richard.
Absolutely, and that's raising some questions that we're also seeing on social media. I think they're legitimate questions. How come we can get forced notifications for weather and missing persons, but not for emergency events like tonight's shelter in place? As we heard Brittany Moncrief, our reporter, who was just having dinner at the Saltwater Crab tonight, just a little bit of confusion and some frustration and maybe even a little bit of anger that there was no system in place to get the word out, so to speak, of what the heck was going on. And people were being told that they had a shelter in place, and they're like, what do you mean I got a shelter in place? And so their first recourse, I guess, is to get on their phones. But, you know, we do have our phones alert us about lots of other serious situations. And this might be something that we need to look at, is some way of alerting the citizenry when there's when it's time to take caution and take cover, as the case today. I also think about some of the solutions that have been proffered in the last few weeks with some of the other tragedies we've had to deal with. And one group in Raleigh, I remember, was calling on more enforcement, more strict enforcement of the curfew, the Memphis curfew. The laws are on the books. Yet the curfew really isn't enforced very strictly here. And the response that came from Memphis police, well, mom and dad, that's on you. So there's a lot of those kinds of debates that we're going to have to, I think, have some serious conversations about as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. And the conversations have happened. We've had lots of conversations. We've had groups who have organized to come up with plans to protect neighborhoods and communities. But the work has to begin, and the work has to start. As we talk about young people, how do we focus on the things that are needed as it deals with mental health, as it deals with programming to inspire and to keep the young people involved, but also build that spirit of community amongst young people, to understand that we're neighbors and we live together, and that as opposed to doing things to harm one another, we should be working with one another to build our community to the best. I always think about the saying that's often read on T-shirts, Memphis versus everybody, meaning that when it comes down to this city, it's nobody but Memphians who can stand up for this city and show the true spirit and goodwill of this community. So, once again, just to recap, if you're joining us late this evening, there was an arrest of Ezekiel Kelly, 19 years old. Started early this evening with a rampage of shootings across the city of Memphis, starting in Raleigh at an AutoZone store. One of the first businesses that we learned, I believe, shut down as a result of this ordeal this evening, but it stretched all the way through the downtown Memphis area, Midtown area, affecting University of Memphis, Overton Square, Cooper Young, and finally ending this evening after we will confirm 4 to 5 locations where people were injured or there were shootings, finally ending this evening in Whitehaven, where our Yvonne Thomas has been and has reported so very well on what she was seeing in that area of Ivan Road and Hodge Road in Whitehaven, where residents were told to shelter in place because at that point in time this evening, around 9 o'clock, 8:30 or 9 o'clock, if I'm correct, if I'm remembering correctly, because so much has happened this evening, they had apprehended that suspect, Ezekiel Kelly. Very disturbing, 19 years old, holding a community hostage with firearms in the city this evening.
Wow, indeed, Rudy. We understand are getting some eyewitness accounts into our newsroom here from people who actually witnessed one of the several crime scenes that we've been telling you about. We believe the first one was this AutoZone store on Jackson, and we're going to hear from a man now who was setting up a tent to help the homeless when he heard gunfire. Let's listen.
We were in the middle of setting up the tents and everything and setting up the food when they heard the shots, and my pastor and some other members, including my pastor's father, went inside, and the man was on the floor. He was a Hispanic man, and they prayed with him. He was bleeding from this area, pretty bad. And then the police came and they told us that we had to leave. But at first we thought it was like he was trying to rob him or something. But then we found out that this guy was just shooting randomly.
Yeah, wow, by the grace of God.
You heard Yvonne Thomas say there, but for the grace of God go I, right? Because that's what a lot of us are saying about these crimes. When they're random in nature, most of us can put ourselves in that situation and say, that could have been me. And those are the crimes that are the toughest to hear about, because you absolutely reach out to the family of the poor woman who was in her medical scrubs, had just presumably gotten off work, was dragged out of her car and shot. That's the kind of thing that has people on edge, and is a reason why you're hearing a lot of fear and you're hearing a lot of concern about where this community is going. What else have we got going on here? We've got, I'm sorry, I'm looking at something else there. So Rudy, I guess as we wait for what's coming up, it is 11 o'clock now. We've been on the air for more than a couple of hours, and what we're waiting for now is to hear some kind of statement from Memphis Police. It's hopefully going to iron out some details here. So if we can, you and me together, let's try this, my friend, and recap, reset, tell people where things are. Let's pause for a moment and we'll reset.
All right.
Watching breaking news coverage here on ABC 24. I'm Richard Ransom along with Rudy Williams, and we're going to break down exactly what we know at this point on what has happened tonight. It's been a very eventful night. That's what happens when you have a rampage shooting going on at several different locations with several different victims. We're going to try and run it down for you. I'll start, Rudy, by telling you about the first shooting that we heard about involving the AutoZone store on Jackson in Raleigh, when we understand from a witness we just heard about in the last hour who was shot in the abdomen somewhere and was rushed to Regional 1. There you see the location in Raleigh where all of this seemed to have started, and then there were several more locations after that.
And we're still waiting to hear from MPD how many there were. Actually, we know that there were streets shut down all along Poplar, through the Midtown area, the University of Memphis area, Midtown area, Overton Square and Cooper Young were affected by this incident tonight. And lastly, in the last shots that you saw before we took a break just moments ago, in Whitehaven at Hodge and Ivan. We've got new video of the arrest right now. It's something that we were not able to see earlier, but here it is on your screen right now. That shooting suspect in custody by Memphis police. The suspect is Ezekiel Kelly. He's 19 years old. If you can see there being led across the street from a grassy, woody area by Memphis police. And we also know that state troopers are also involved in this area, as our Yvonne Thomas told us earlier. So I'm sure some of those officers are included there in the video that you're watching right now. But we had heard earlier in the evening, this man, Ezekiel Kelly, 19 years old, was apprehended somewhere around 8:30 or 9 o'clock this evening. Correct me if I'm wrong in the control room, but I think that was about the time. We had so much going on at that particular point in time. And every resident in that area, in that neighborhood in Whitehaven, was told to shelter in place because police had identified where that suspect was, and they were in the process of arresting 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly this evening. So once again, Richard, as we were talking about before, we went on the air after our 6 o'clock newscast around 6:30. This had been going on possibly about an hour, maybe even more, around the rush hour time of day when this all started. With this coming to an end before our 10 o'clock hour, about an hour ago. So sooner than later, we all ask the question, how long will this be? But as we're covering these sorts of things and making sure that the community is safe, we came on the air to make sure that residents knew exactly where they should be, and also know that there was, which has been lifted, a shelter-in-place warning for all residents of the Memphis community, because police had no idea where the shooter was going or where this incident would end up.
But it did end in Whitehaven, as we've been showing you the video of the arrest of Ezekiel Kelly, who we might point out we also learned a short time ago, within the last hour or so, already had an arrest warrant issued today for murder one, separate from whoever the victims are as a result of this shooting rampage that started at the AutoZone. So he was already in deep, deep trouble with the law when this happened this evening. After that AutoZone, we know that there was another incident of shots fired near the U of M campus. There's the AutoZone shot. After that, there was an incident, we're not sure of the timing here, of at Patterson and Southern near the U of M area, that there was a shooting at the in the 900 block of East Parkway South. And then the last shooting that we're aware of happened near Poplar and Auburndale in the Evergreen area, in which a eyewitness accounts and what we hear from our reporter Rebecca Butcher on the scene, a woman was shot and killed, her body removed by the medical examiner's office just a short time ago. A rampage and random shootings that affected this entire city. As Rudy mentioned, the city put on shelter at home alert. A baseball game at AutoZone Park was suspended until tomorrow, postponed. People told to go home because of the shelter at home order. People escorted out of restaurants by managers, people choosing to stay in restaurants who had no idea what was going on. Same thing happening at churches around the city. A massive effect on an entire population that was a result of what happened here tonight. Let's go back to Yvonne Thomas, who's been at the scene here where Ezekiel was arrested. She's not far from Neely Road and Rains Road where the arrest took place. Yvonne?
Hey guys, you're absolutely right. We're maybe about 800 feet from Ivan and Hodge, not far from where that arrest took place. We actually got confirmation from MPD officers while they were on the scene that arrest took place further on down this road behind me. You can see there's only one officer still left at this scene, at least of what we can see. But boy, was it a different scene just minutes, 30, 45 minutes ago, even an hour ago. Very, very different scene. We saw Memphis Police Department cars, we saw undercover cop cars, but we also saw large vehicles and tank-like vehicles that were here in this area. And they were here for quite some time from what we could tell, investigating and gathering evidence. To be quite honest with you, I'm not even quite sure how large this scene is here on Sedgwick and Lakeview because the crime scene tape is so far back, and we've seen officers and police vehicles even further back than where we can actually see them. We only knew that they were there because of their lights. But definitely what a devastating day it is for many families here in Memphis and the Mid-South area. Not only did we see investigators out here, but we also saw community members that came outside just to see what was going on, because we're actually not very far from neighborhoods and surrounding areas. Many people were trying to actually drive through the crime scene, just not knowing that this is what police were doing and that it happened so close to their home. We even spoke to a gentleman who was here at this scene who told us, you just heard a sound not too long ago, that he was at that scene at the AutoZone, one of those scenes that many police officers were there as well, and he described seeing someone get shot. He also describes praying for that gentleman. He said he was there with his church and that there were several children nearby in the area, but that he's still standing. He's unarmed or uninjured at this point, but is definitely praying for the city. It's been a hard week, as we've been talking about. Again, just one officer here at this scene that we can see right now. If that changes, we'll of course keep you updated, but for now, I'll send things back over to you.
All right, thank you, Yvonne. We appreciate your hard work out there, and we are waiting, as we mentioned, a word from Memphis Police, trying to summarize everything that happened here tonight, get some official comments about that. But we do know one thing's for sure: it ended right where she was, there in Whitehaven, where the arrest was finally made. Rudy, let me bring you into this conversation. I think that. Or we got Brad Broders? Okay, let's go to Brad Broders, who is live at the Regional 1. Brad, what can you tell us about what you've learned where you are?
Well, Richard and Rudy, just the last couple of minutes ago, there was a heavy law enforcement presence. About 5 minutes ago, they have now left about 5 minutes ago, so no Memphis police currently at Regional 1. As you just mentioned, Richard and Rudy, we're still waiting on if Memphis police will have a press conference tonight, and if so, where. We've got crews across Memphis ready to be in position, including here at Regional 1. If that's where the news conference is or another part of Memphis, we'll be ready to go. Unfortunately, the Regional 1 Medical Center spokesperson could not confirm how many victims have been treated here tonight in direct connection to that active shooter who went on that rampage earlier this evening across Memphis, because this is a trauma hospital. It's a little hard to know exactly what gunshot victim came in specifically because of that active shooter that was across Memphis earlier tonight. So we don't have an exact word on that. I wish we could have passed that along. We have asked, just got word about about 10 minutes ago from Regional 1, unable to confirm how many victims have been treated here specifically. I'm getting some social media posts, unconfirmed, potentially from family members of victims who have been injured because of that active shooter tonight. But obviously, we are waiting to confirm that, facts, not fear. So we're not going to, mention that on air. But we are getting wind potentially of family members of those injured, affected tonight by this active shooter across the city of Memphis. Richard and Rudy, you've talked about it in the last 30 minutes. Again, Memphis is getting national attention, not for the right reasons, but as you saw that hashtag earlier, 901 strong. 901's hurting tonight, but there's also a sense of being 901 strong. Continue to monitor the latest developments, and if and when there is an update from Memphis Police, we'll bring that to you live at Regional 1 Medical Center. I'm Brad Broders.
Well, thank you, Brad. And the important thing, Rudy, is the bottom line is, for this event, this time, the perpetrator is behind bars, and when there were so many people who were concerned and so many people affected, not knowing where this guy was going, at least now we know. That is one thing we don't have to worry about tonight.
That's right. You're absolutely right there, Richard. Some things that we do know for sure that you just said a moment ago. Ezekiel Kelly, 19 years old, has been arrested in connection with the shooting spree across the city of Memphis. We know that one woman, unfortunately, was shot and killed in the course of this incident. And we do know that the shelter at home or shelter in place warnings have been lifted so that Memphians can go about their lives for the rest of this evening if they're leaving work on the late shift from FedEx or wherever else they may be working, or you're getting ready to go to school and work in the morning with a little bit more safety and hopefully some more information as to what occurred on the streets across the city. Now, I'm going to let you do this because you've done a much better job at this than I have. We do know there are 4 to 5 crime scenes that exist all because of this ordeal this evening. So I'm going to let you cover those, starting in Raleigh.
Yeah, there was the Raleigh shooting at the AutoZone. We believe that that person was injured and may have been taken to Regional 1 as far as we're aware of right now. Then we get a little less clear. We know that there were 3, possibly 4 more shootings according to Major Karen Rudolph with the Memphis Police Department. We're just not exactly sure the order of which and who may or may not have been hurt, but we do know that after the situation in Raleigh at the AutoZone, that there was a shooting at the 900 block of East Parkway South, then another one near University of Memphis campus at Patterson and Southern, and finally the final one was at Poplar and Auburndale in the Evergreen area. That is going to pretty much wrap up our coverage here for tonight at least. Of course, we are expecting that statement from Memphis Police, and when that happens, we'll have it for you on our morning newscast. But before we go, I just want to give our thoughts and our prayers here at ABC 24 for everyone affected, and that is just about all of you, Memphis. Whether you may have known the victim or may have been a victim or somehow know the suspect, whatever. A lot of people here affected. If you were at a restaurant when this happened, if you were at church when this happened, crime affects all of us. And never have we felt that more, I have to say, than we did tonight. Every last one of us affected by what happened here tonight, and only by one individual. So let's pray for our city, let's pray for each other, and let's hope that we can have the right attitude going forward to try and make some more serious conversations, have more serious discussion about what we got to do something about this. Don't forget that we're going to give you push alerts through our app, abc24.com. You just text the word app to 901-321-7520. You'll get alerts right away as soon as we get more information, and we expect to have more information from police certainly tomorrow morning, and we'll have full coverage throughout the day here on ABC 24. Rudy, that concludes, I guess, a pretty busy and a sad day for us here in Memphis, but I remain hopeful. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. We love Memphis, and our prayers and thoughts are with everybody across the city tonight.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good night, and we'll see you with more coverage as it is warranted.